Multiple sclerosis is a disease that impacts the brain and spinal cord, which make up the central nervous system that controls everything we do, whether it's taking a physical step or solving a complex problem. The exact cause of MS is unknown, but we do know that something triggers the immune system to attack the brain and spinal cord. The resulting damage to myelin that insulates wire-like nerve fibers is a disruption of signals to and from the brain. This interruption of communication signals causes unpredictable symptoms such as numbness, tingling, mood changes, memory problems, pain, fatigue, blindness, or paralysis. Everyone's experience with MS is different, and these losses may be temporary or long-lasting. Most people initially have relapsing remitting MS, where they experience attacks of new symptoms followed by periods of time when those symptoms go away partially or completely. Others experience gradual and ongoing loss of function without distinct attacks, which is known as progressive MS. MS can be difficult to diagnose, but once a diagnosis is confirmed by a neurologist who is knowledgeable about MS, there are disease-modifying therapies for reducing attacks and slowing down the damage for those with relapsing MS. Growing evidence suggests that early and ongoing treatment with a disease-modifying therapy is an important defense against future attacks. There are also treatment strategies to address some MS symptoms. There is no therapy yet that can slow down or stop progressive MS. Worldwide research is accelerating the discovery of how to slow down or even stop progressive MS, how to repair nervous system damage and restore function, wellness strategies such as exercise and diet that can help people with MS to live their best lives, and the exact cause of MS so that it may be prevented for future generations. To learn more about multiple sclerosis, connect with others to drive research for a cure, and to address the challenges of everyone affected by MS, visit nationalmssociety.org or call 1-800-344-4867.
This is iRacing.
Tonight is so much more than just winning the race. Tonight is all about getting everything together in a stream to end MS. A fantastic cause with a fantastic circuit and with fantastic classes of category. This is an iRacing special event. This is the Circuit Day 24 Hours du Mans, and this is the Race for More 2.4. My name is Jake Sperry, Arjuna Kankapati, alongside with me, along with Reese Gardner, and we're here with incredible action for you over the next 2 hours and 24 minutes of racing, and a little bit of added time here and there to make sure that everything is all fun. It is as unique as it gets as we watch things, Arjuna. This is all about coming together, and the iRacers are out in force, as they have been for so many charitable events over the last 15 years worth of sim racing.
Yeah, these iRacing special events have really celebrated what motorsports and sim racing can be all about. And over the last 3 years since we introduced this race for MS, we've started, of course, at the Charlotte Roval, last year at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, and we've flown over the pond today for what's going to be a really interesting race with a GTP, GT1 and GR86 combo.
we have, and 3 different types of cars, very different in terms of what they are going to bring tonight. But tonight is all about you, the viewer at home. It is all about what you can do to help donate to what is a fantastic cause, benefiting over 1 million people in the United States of America, and globally 2.8 million people. Reese, we look around this circuit, it's going to be in beautiful peach orange, but this is an absolutely incredible track, one which you basically say, I'll race you from one roundabout to another roundabout and make your way somewhere back towards the city.
Yeah, absolutely. This track has an awful lot of history to it. It's been raced on since the early 1920s, and it is shorter than it used to be, but it's still a fearsome challenge. 8.5 miles, super long straights, heavy braking zones into the chicanes on the Mulsanne Straight, and of course we can't forget about the Porsche curves. That's certainly going to be a point of contention when the classes come up next to each other in those sections.
They absolutely are, and we are going to see just what it makes that happen. Arjuna, now we look at what we're racing at today, and this is everything. It is 144 minutes of fast, fraught action of fun.
Yeah, and of course, I think the thing that we're all excited about, unlimited fast repairs. You can go out there, get involved in a big tangle, but because we're doing this all in support of the National MS Society, we want drivers to log the laps, and so we're going to give them unlimited chances to go out there. And they may need those fast repairs. GTP, the latest of the endurance prototype machinery, going to head out there with the classic GT1 sports cars. And just for a bit of fun, we decided we'll throw in an entry-level race car. It's going to be speed differences of up to 100 miles an hour into the entry of some of the faster braking zones and, of course, some of those faster corners. And we're always, of course, talking about the fact that we've split these drivers up into their races. So many different drivers. I think almost 700 teams wanted to be a part of this race for more 2.4. We've averaged them out based on their iRating, split them up into fields where they will hopefully be competitive. And Jake, we're going to follow our 3 broadcast drivers, of course. Chad Canal, Steve Mars, and Nick Ottinger once again coming together. And hopefully we'll get some drive-through penalties for them to serve as well.
Absolutely. We're in the case of Jimmy World for our split today. We're in the middle at this moment in time, and we're going to be seeing just what brings in some incredible sim racing action. And there is going to be a lot to keep in mind as we take a little peek forward at the qualifying effort that these drivers are looking to push. They'll have 8 minutes to set a representative flying lap, and they will have 2 laps available in the back pocket, maybe just the one if you are the Toyota GR86, which is going to struggle to make its way around. There's the GT1 category out on track, looking to try and really push forward. The 337 making that charge. And I tell you what, Reese, that is old school, getting the GT1s back out before the merge, of course, into what was a GT division that was GTE.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it makes me feel really old to say that those cars are representative of a bygone era. They are some proper old school GT cars. We've got a V12 engine in the Aston and a V8 engine in the Corvette. Have a look at that. We do have a Corvette out on track at the moment. That is the number 35. Left side weight is the team, and we go up to the Cadillac as well, both naturally aspirated V8, and the BMW as well in the GTP class. We've got some good brand representation out here. Will it be BMW or Cadillac who take the top honors in the top class? Well, I mean, we do have to think about charity donations and buying penalties for others. For all we know, we could see a GT1 take overall victory.
We could see so much happen. There is predictable unpredictability that is out there at the moment. But let's take a little look in at what makes us all smile. It's the 889 that is making the charge along the Mulsanne. This is the iRacing Cadillac out there. Chad Knaus currently behind the wheel, and that is going to be all about getting as much pace as possible going through. We'll take a look at this lap. 2 minutes to get that final lap set up and all together, Arjuna. But this middle sector is where the power comes in, where you're needing to be all over the pace. And someone behind the wheel who knows all about going fast is someone who has been crew chief to Jimmy Johnson for 7 titles.
quite curious what it's like for Chad Knaus as well, of course, after being part of that Garage 56 effort to come here in a prototype in the sim world, what that must be like for him. Of course, we don't blow past almost, 6 kilometers, 3.5 miles down the Mulsanne like we used to. Now it's split up into two chicanes that break it up, of course, when the FAA decided that we don't need straights longer than 2 kilometers. Jake, is quite interesting. Nowadays, we talk about endurance racing somewhat being a bit of a sprint, right? The cars are so reliable, it's about the drivers pushing as far as possible. This particular straight is one of those old school things where when you're popping off the rev limiter, asking for every little bit off the car, you can hear the car straining underneath you, and it's a big relief in some ways when you go down through the gears at the very end of the straight.
You're going to talk to us here like any second.
Through the speed.
Roger.
Yeah, and this is one of the more unique circuits out there. You talk about the endurance calendar and how certain tracks have different profiles and characteristics. This is one which is all for the speed demon. This is all about throttle, top end, and of course that final section is where all of the balance of the car comes into play. We're going to take a little look down though. We're going to go over to Blake McCandless, who's going to be jumping in and around, seeing what all the players of the game have to say. Blake,
all right, and before we get things going tonight, going to catch up real quick here with Nick Ottinger. Nick, I know, well, you've been pretty busy this week. You had the Coke Series race on Tuesday night. You won the pole for that one, and then you're moving right on here to 2.4 hours. So kind of talk about the quick turnaround and what you guys are looking forward to tonight.
Oh yeah, we're racing for a good cause tonight. You know, MS Society's racing every day to find a cure for multiple sclerosis, and you know, we're here for 2.4 hours tonight. You know, try to raise some funds for a good cause and something that's very dear to Chad. So, you know, it's a short week for me, obviously. You know, we had a good event strictly for our playoff hopes in the Coca-Cola series, and you know, this is a fun event. It's a fun one to do this every year with Chad, Steve, and you know, all the iRacing competitors out there that we do this, you know, each year. So hopefully continue it, and you know, at the end of the day, it's for a fun cause, and you know, it's a fun time where everyone can kind of pitch in and you know, just come together.
That it is, and I know you mentioned this is for fun, but I also know this is competition. You're working with Steve Myers, you're working with Chad Knaus, you're working with some big names, whether it's the real world or the virtual world, but they kind of probably look to you as the expert. So is there any kind of advice you've been offering here the last couple of days as these guys have kind of practiced and try to get ready for this one?
Well, our team legend, Chad, we're calling this the Chadillac now, just to let you know. So, you know, we named the car after him. And, yeah, it's, you know, it's just pretty much keep it on track and honestly just have fun with it. You know, there's no pressure out here to, you know, go out to win the races. You know, just out here to, you know, win the race for all these MS fans and, you know, get some people donated.
All right, Nick. Well, we'll be checking in with all you guys throughout the day. Best of luck. And again, like you said, make sure you have some fun tonight.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, that's Nick Ottinger.
So we head over to the grid, 499 Racing with control, and it is 5 of the top 6 in Cadillacs, the only BMW TTSL Motorsports. They will start from the 4th position of the grid. The likes of the 4X specialists then are going to be hoping that they're not going to be in too much trouble. There is the iRacing Cadillac, which will start from 9th position, or actually 10th position on this grid, with the Taco Shop Racing just behind going through. Simulation for Life buy themselves through with the likes of Ruthless Motorsport. The 399 is certainly going to be hoping for a good run. They are the back of the field for your GTP field out there at the moment. GT1's certainly looking interesting. Only 2 teams set a time, the Desert Dolphins and Ravenholm Racing. The likes of Left Side Weight will be hoping that they are going to be on the right side of the left side as they go through, and as well as the Lapdown League, never going to be there and going to get itself through. We're going to take ourselves over to have a little look through. There is your GR86s at the moment, and it is the 610 Racing Team second, Nicholas Pressy Motorsports there in third. They're going to all have that push to go through, and you look down the likes of Blake Rios, Blue Pants Racing, they're all going to be there. So too the Foo Crew. Keep an eye on the Foo Crew, and then High Prick at their Sim Race City should be some team that does do an incredible job out there. But we're going to take this opportunity to go over to our Grand Marshal for today's racing, Mr. Tony Kanaan.
Hello everyone, Tony Kanaan here, and I'm happy to be the Grand Marshal for the Race for More 2.4 benefiting National MS Society. It was a super fun event last year. I had a blast. Excited to get this one started. To do that, I'd like to kick off with giving Steve, Chad, and Nick a drive-through penalty. Good luck, everyone.
Penalties in the immediacy. I love it. It's chaos. It's exactly what we love to see out there. And they are going to be on the receiving end of that over the course of the opening laps worth of racing. Remember, you have the ability to influence as it goes through, as there goes the tricolor flying forward here, as it always does here at the Circuit Day 24 Hours du Mans. This a beautiful start to what is a beautiful charity race as we look from on board there just for the briefest of moments, the iRacing pace car. Safety car will dive down in right and we will get ourselves underway for 2 hours and 24 minutes worth of sim racing action with Thiago Fernandez for THF Racing and Nick Ebby for 499 Racing leading control. The green flag is in the air and we are underway here at the circuit that everyone loves here in Pays de la Loire.
Already it's looking like Ebby getting a very good start coming into the first chicane, but we already have one of the BMWs off, Alex Shearer in the TTSL car going off the circuit. Same for the Cadillac for Drexel Esports. They managed to get going as the Toyotas manage to get a nice clean start going. It looks like leading the way it is Jacob Burke in the number 14, but oh dear, we have the Hyper Sim Race City car up the field a little bit and having to drop back, but it looks like most of the field making their way completely through the first corners.
First corner's going all nice and dandy at the moment, and Arjuna, we are now starting to note as they hit that early stage, that early attacks now, it's all about building gaps and responsibilities, but they will also be responsible to how much they push. And the slowdown penalties on the opening lap are certainly going to be the ones that hurt the most.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you do not want to get a slowdown on the first lap out of Tetra Rouge. So easy to run a bit wide, and we saw one of the BMWs going a bit slowly, and it's allowed the 499 to break away almost 4 seconds clear as we exit out of that second chicane. This is where you got maximum hybrid power as well, let's not forget. You've been able to store that energy to the start of the race and now deploy as much of it as possible. After this, it starts to average out a little bit more, and from here, you've got to be a little bit more hesitant with your hybrid usage.
A couple of drivers there in the back there, it looks like in your GT1 category, are having to skip Reese there through the first of the chicanes, which is definitely not what you want to be dealing with in at the opening lap of this one. And it is scary when you're up there at high speeds to go through. And we take a look on board here with Chad Knaus.
Yeah, you'll get an example of one of the braking zones here coming into Mulsanne corner itself. This is a very difficult braking zone. You blend to the right through the braking zone, and the top two classes here, the GTPs and the GT1s, don't have ABS, and it seems like that's already caught someone out. That's one of the BMWs off at that corner, so already not off to a very good start for a few of our racers.
No, that was the number 5. That was Team Carlo Maria Barberi, and unsurprisingly, Carlo Maria Barberi driving. But this is going to be old school in terms of the field here from the Toyota GR86s. Look at them all swarming their way through. This is Floyd Grohowski Racing, Brenton Floyd, the number 21 at the front of this group, Arjuna. But look at this. This has got some old school MX-5 style feel to it at the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring. This is that brilliant pack mentality.
And the great thing is, it's for 6th on back. We've got a huge gaggle that's starting to stretch their legs towards the front and running away, led by the throttle gobbling car that is very greedy on the throttle, it would seem. But in this pack, you got to be careful, because even though it seems like it's quite calm and quite tentative down the straight, it's all about positioning yourself well and making sure you don't make a big mistake like that. The trans number 12 goes well deep into the corner and now rejoins, and it's going to slide backwards down through the field.
Yeah, and it's going to take a little while to get up to speed because, Arjuna, that car is locked with traction control. You can't turn it off.
Yes, and that's one thing that you were complaining a little bit about, Jake, before we went live. It's got all of this fun driftability and rear wheel control that you might need as a driver, and then you don't have to actually take advantage of it because we add some driver aids.
Yeah, there's another one off the road then. That is left side way, and they found themselves looking the wrong way. But look at this. This is scary through the Porsche curve. So we'll go and get things going. Listen to the roar. Let's go iRacing full throttle. Pace absolutely frantic then the early stages as smoke billows out behind with the spin in your main category. We're going to take this time to head over to the iRacing Director of Racing Operations and host of the iRacing Downshift podcast, Greg West, as he sits down with Christina Caro and has a talk about what we're really here for today, the race to end MS.
All right, thanks, guys. Now that we are settling into the chaos that is the third annual Race for More 2.4 benefiting the National MS Society, I'm here with Senior Director of Emerging Events for the National MS Society, Christina Caro. Christina, thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Greg. Thanks for helping us put on this event.
It is an absolute pleasure and it's an absolute blast. Anytime I can give one of my bosses a penalty on live TV, we're going to call this a good night. So
absolutely.
All right, Christina, talk to me a little bit about the MS Society and what your role is with it.
Sure. So I am part of our emerging events team at the MS Society, where I get to work on really fun campaigns like DIY MS and Stream Change MS, and iRacing is obviously part of our Stream campaign. So our sort of side of the MS Society is all kind of really fun up-and-coming events that are out there. So we do things like iRacing, streaming, DIY events, a jet pull that people literally pull a jet across a runway. We do a 3-day walk. We have 5Ks. We have marathons. And this all goes along with everything else the MS Society is doing. So bike MS or walk MS events, basically any kind of events that raise money and awareness for multiple sclerosis. That's what I get to be involved with on a daily basis.
that's a lot of fun. I've been involved with the MS Society since I was, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old, doing the MS 150 way back in the day. And it's always a first-class event. Anybody that wants to get involved, you definitely should. You're going to have a good time, and obviously it goes to a great charity. So let's talk about the impact of events like this, with the money being raised. What does it mean? Like, what's tangibly in terms of care and research for those that are afflicted with this disease?
Yeah, sure. So the Society's vision is a world free of MS. And our mission is that we will cure MS while empowering people affected by MS to live their best lives. So fundraising events like this event that we put on, like the other ones that I mentioned, really help us kind of do our best for those living with multiple sclerosis. It helps us raise money for research. It helps us really drive change through advocacy. It helps us provide programs and services for people who are in need and really their families. So pretty much anything that we can do through these events is what we want to turn around and put back into our constituents so they feel supported in their own MS journeys.
Oh, that's excellent. Now, if somebody wants to get involved other than the annual iRacing event, let's talk through some of these things like the DIY events or Bike MS. Where can they go? And what are some of these events a little more specific?
Yeah, the best source of information is our website, so nationalmssociety.org. There you can find everything about upcoming events, ways to get involved as a volunteer, really learning more about our research opportunities, advocacy options that we have, and ways that people can really get involved locally. So right now we have tons of events going on at the MS Society. There's always lots of things happening. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a very robust Walk MS program. So block events happening throughout the whole country, same thing with Bike MS, and then some of these other sort of more specialty events that we put on. So we're doing, a marathon training program called Finish MS. We have 5K events in the Philadelphia area around Thanksgiving time. We also have events that we put on that are galas and dinners. DIY is everything, golf tournaments to really small events that could be as small as a backyard barbecue. So there really is so many options for people to get involved. And streaming, kind of what we're doing here with iRacing, our Stream to End MS program is one of our newest campaigns with the society that really lets people kind of do something that they're really passionate about, maybe playing video games, doing iRacing, those types of things people can do from their own homes. So lots of ways to get involved. You don't have to necessarily, run out and sign up for a really big commitment. There's tons of ways people can do something very meaningful in their own communities.
Yeah, and if you want to get more involved, nationalmssociety.org. I think Drew is going to put a QR code up like right about now. Is it here, Drew, or is it here, or is it wherever Drew is putting it? Yeah, you can check out the website. But yeah, definitely get involved. Once again, it's an absolute ton of fun, and every little bit helps, right?
Absolutely, and now is the best time to really get involved. We recently have learned that there's nearly 1 million people in the United States living with MS. So more reason to do something about MS now, get involved, really help us through our events, drive advocacy, and really fund for people who are really needing it. So it's a great time to get involved with us.
All right. Well, thanks for taking the time this evening, Christina. We really appreciate it. Once again, Christina Carroll, Senior Director of Emerging Events for the National MS Society. She's going to be in chat throughout the race and going to be answering your questions. And who knows, maybe if she sees somebody gets too much of a lead, she might do something to help our VIP team get back in the race since they're
Absolutely. Give me that power. I'll take it. Happy to be there and chat with you all, and really excited to see how the race unfolds today.
All right. And with that, let's get back to the broadcast.
Thanks, Greg.
Action then has been a plenty over the course of the racing. The drive-through penalty then for the Cadillac has been served, so they have found themselves in the pits, out and away again as they've been getting on their racing action. Greg is a very busy person when it comes to iRacing at this point in time, and he finds himself now with the opportunity to sit down and have a chat with Zach Munthe here as he gets ready and has his opportunity to talk a little bit further.
All right, we're back with for more with one of our bigger fundraisers for the event. Zach Munthe from Bergall Sagemount is joining us, racing from the Classic Car Club in New York City right now, except we're recording this the day before, so you can focus on, keeping the rubber side down tonight. How you doing, Zach?
I'm great, Greg. Thanks for having me here.
Now, you have been involved with the MS for a while now. Let's talk a little bit about why the MS Society has a personal connection for you.
Yeah, so my dad was diagnosed back in 2004, and I've had the chance to live pretty much my entire life watching him, fight this chronic condition, both mentally and physically. One of the hardest working and my biggest mentor in my life. And also on the physical side of the house, he's actually a marathon runner. So he's run 15 marathons over the last 15 years pretty much, and watching him really tackle 26.2 miles every year, that got me motivated to be a part of it too. And so for me, the MS Society, I raised my first charity bib last year to be able to do that one with him. And I'm going to be doing that every successive year that I can, and as long as he can keep pushing on. But really, the organization speaks to a massive community of individuals, huge advocacy groups, the opportunity to fundraise and contribute to a lot of research that's going on in the space, and MS specialists that are picking up in various pockets to help the community.
No, that's great to hear. Now let's flip the script a little bit and let's talk about iRacing. You've been involved with iRacing for a while now. I know you and Tony Gardner, the president of iRacing, sat down, and when you said, "Hey, I want to get involved in this," let's talk a little bit about you've been involved in the service for a while now as well, and how that is how cool it is to tie the two together.
Yeah, I'm proud to say that the first car I ever drove was a Toyota Prius. The first car I ever got a speeding ticket in was a Toyota Prius, and went up a little bit on the horsepower bounds to the MX-5. So I started racing in the Skip Barber MX-5 series. Lime Rock Park isn't too far away from where I'm living now in Manhattan, and
this is in the real world, right?
Oh yeah, this is real world. But ahead of that, the predicated on you got to get some laps in before you start tearing up tires and ripping off bumpers. So had a little wheel on my desk. That was, can't tell you how many 5 a.m. laps I've done on the platform, but started probably 2012 or 2013, and it's the best training tool that I can possibly imagine. And watching iRacing get into dirt and a host of other series over the years, and who knows what's to come here, but yeah, the most sophisticated platform and awesome community of sim racers that's out there.
Yeah, well, we're happy to have you. You guys in the Classic Car Club and Bergal Sagemount have raised so far, and this is the day before the race. Nothing's even started yet, and you guys have already raised the second highest amount of money out of anybody. So really looking forward to watching that number as the race goes on. Also, depending on whether you guys end up in the VIP split, maybe we can help or hurt you depending on how much you guys open your checkbook up throughout the race.
Hey, I'm telling you, I'll do the hurting myself when I crash in turn 2. So, but if you need to throw anything else at me, I'm here for it.
Sounds good. Well, you got unlimited fast repairs for the race, so even if you wad it up, you can just fix it. So it's a piece of cake.
There we go.
All right. Well, once again, Zach Month from Bergal Sagemount, happy to have you, excited to have you as part of this community event tonight. And with that, let's get back to the broadcast.
2.4, 2 hours, 6 minutes, and 27 seconds are on the clock as it stands. This is your leader, 499 Racing, and Troubles there for the team in 5th position out there. That's a big shunt up there in about the middle of your field. So that's not ideal in this scenario, but 21 seconds, Arjuna, to the good. This is a brilliant showcase of driving at the moment at the front.
Yeah, it's an incredible event to have as well. We've already raised more than $20,000. Greg was just chatting with the Classic Car Club that raised more than $2,500 before a lap of action was even turned. And the great thing about some of these fundraisers is that there are opportunities for you to not just support a great cause, but to get something out of it yourself. If you want to go and join Don Squirek in his Spec Miata over at the Atlanta Motorsports Park, $500 donation, Jake, gets you a full session riding as his passenger in a Spec MX-5 practice session. It's fantastic.
Get yourself behind the wheel. That will be something that is beautiful. For more information on how to start your iRacing career, get yourself involved in events like this, you can log on to iRacing.com today. Reese, we've been looking at everything that's been going on. And over the course of the amazing action we've had over the opening 19 minutes of this racing, we've had penalties, we've had dramas, but this car has continued to, fly out and do itself some justice here.
Yeah, well, Tony Kanaan, our Grand Marshal. Oh, no. Oh, dearie me. That's a big problem for the 889. Chad Knaus making contact with what looked like one of the GR86s. So that is a huge blow to their race. That was on the run up to Tetra Rouge. Up until that point, they were steadily working their way back through the field. They were up to 15th place, having just served that drive-through penalty that Tony Kanaan bought for them. And unfortunately, it looks like things have gotten just a little bit worse there for our iRacing entry. Meanwhile, a pass for the lead in GT1. We have a Corvette making its way past an Aston there. Desert Dolphins up to the GT1 class lead.
They are, and Riley Graham, who's behind the wheel, will now pull away from Raven Ahmada, who is piloting the Ravenholm racing car. So that then a move for position there. The 27 car has been trying to make that progress. Just the two cars there, Arjuna, were able to set qualifying lap times. Everyone else is trying to find some footing in and around, but at the moment, it's those two who are clear, 13.5 to the good.
Yeah, and we mentioned it earlier, you get 8 minutes in qualifying with which to set a lap, but we're talking about 4-minute lap times here. There's not really time for a GT1 machine to go around twice, plus the little bit of an outlap that you get as well. And so qualifying, effectively a warm-up for these drivers as they got set, and maybe gave them a sense for who they would be fighting with. Ultimately, it's traffic that's going to play itself out, especially when we're talking that GTPs, given the speed differential to the GT1s and the GR86s.
They are the 7 and the 2 making that charge, and behind that, the 96 of Donkey Bop Racing are trying to put themselves in play. And this is what you see. Lap traffic here, there, and everywhere. You've got every category of car pretty much there, and it is pretty much trying to weave your way through, maximizing as much the hybrid that you possibly can in these machines. And all of a sudden, you've got the number 4 Pup and Suds team. They're now starting to jump up into this mix too, and they are looking at this going, well, okay, now it's a race on 3rd, 4th, and 5th and 6th, the THF racing car, which started on the front row. They are all going to be driving it down now here, Reese, looking for opportunities to say, let's get out of the hair of the traffic and just give us an opportunity to go out and race.
Yeah, it was an absolute mess there in the first sector, but it looks like that's going to be a run at second for Steve Bauer in the Pup and Suds entry. Excellent exit from Tetra Rouge. You mentioned the hybrid. These GTP cars have an electric motor in between, and reminder, you can scan this QR code to donate to the National MS Society and potentially buy someone a penalty if you are so inclined. Get your phone out, scan that QR code, donate to a great cause. As Arjuna mentioned earlier, more than $20,000 raised already, as that's a big spin for the Cadillac, driven by Mason Weir coming out of that first chicane, and he has lost touch with that second place battle now. It's already a lot of drama here, Sperry.
Oh, there's a lot of drama, and Arjuna, it's all about throttle control through those two chicanes. You effectively have the tires cool down, you're looking at it, you're trying to wait to put that power down, and often you find with a machine that's so G'd up with so much torque, it's so easy for the back just to flip around.
Especially if you've got too much lateral load on the tires, right? Let's not forget that the way that these engines work is that the ICE, the actual engine itself, cuts out slightly to accommodate that hybrid power, and so when it cuts in, you might just suddenly lose all sort of traction, and it's always very intriguing. You don't have such qualms though when it comes to the artificial, let's say, overtaking aid in the GT1. Old school machines, we're talking back in the day, Sperry, when you had to take a hand off the wheel to be able to shift gears because it had that beautiful knob in the middle that I think plenty of us reminisce about.
Yeah, and Raven Ahmada is there in the 337, and this is where you need all of that skill and balance to go through. Takes a wide line through the initial entry of the Porsche curves here, and trying to just really see what makes this such a legendary space of circuit race, because you take this section of track, doesn't matter what car you're in, you're always trying to fight for as much grip you've got as possible. There's a lap traffic there on the outside they're going to navigate without too much issue at all. But it's just a beautiful ending to a legendary track.
Yeah, the Porsche curbs were added in 1972 to this circuit, and I think it's one of the best additions to a racetrack ever. Really shows the difference between these classes of car. The GTPs, of course, they make a lot of their pace through underbody aerodynamics. They're all about cornering speed. The GT1s, meanwhile, they do have a bit of aerodynamic assistance, but they depend more on mechanical grip. So they're sliding around a little bit in those faster areas of the circuit. But coming out of the first chicane now, we hear that beautiful V12 scream of the Aston. Really love the DBR9. It's one of my favorite race cars of all time. But seems that the driver in question here, Raven Ahumada, is having a bit of trouble trying to chase down Riley Graham in the Desert Dolphins car, because he's on a bit of a charge right now.
Yeah, it looks like we do have that charge going forward, but the key is going to be that there is a little bit more out there that's going through. But now you got to talk Toyota for a moment. This is on at this moment in time in and around that 10th position. So you've got the Blake Rios racing car of Brendan Roberts just being overtaken then by the Ibex racing car of Ryan Mulvey. But this is a really, really cool car, Juna, because this is the spiritual successor to the Hachiroku, the Truno Sprinter.
I really like this GR86 in so many ways, because you mentioned that it replaced the Miata, but I feel like it has added to the iRacing lower rank classes. So often we get focused on the higher speed cars where, you know, we all end up wanting to be Formula One drivers or racing in prototypes. But where does the best racing actually come? Where do we develop that racecraft? It's in these slower powered cars when we get the opportunity to fight side by side. And I've commentated on my fair share of racing in this car where I've almost lost my voice, and I'm hoping that we can get some sort of fun fighting towards the end here. But given the separation that we've seen with the traffic having already played its part, I get the sense that for these GR86s, it's a bit of a royal rumble as to who's going to be left on the lead lap come the end of the 2.4 hours.
Yeah, they're always going to be looking around at the leaders and hoping that, okay, with the way that their racing is about to go, what can you do? The Trans Team 12 there with Lucy Klinger behind the wheel is going to have to start playing defense here, because Ryan Mulvey eyeing up a move then at turns 2 and 3, this Dunlop chicane. And now when you're trying to drive through, the one thing you're looking at here is how much drive can you get off of the exits of these corners. And the less input you can put on the steering in this machinery, Reese, the absolute better you're going to be flying through this field with this car, just because of how you're always trying to dance around with the electronic aids that this machine brings.
Yeah, this car is designed for amateur racers, and so it does have those driver aids, active traction control and anti-lock brakes as well. But it certainly is a bit of a dance, this car, as it looks like I think that might be a slowdown that Lucy Klinger is serving. She went a little bit too far beyond the curb at Churchill Rouge and might have been dealing with a little bit of oversteer there, as we see now. Going to the back of that train, unfortunately, but still in the slipstream.
Still in the slipstream and looking to go through. Blake McCandless has been wandering down, keeping an eye on everybody here, and he's managed to find himself with a very, very important person. He's found himself with Mr. iRacing himself, Steve Myers.
All right, we're going to check in here with Steve Myers, the head man here at iRacing. And, well, Steve, first off, I think I wrecked you in a hosted session a couple weeks ago, so I want to say thank you for not firing me. Or maybe it was someone else named Steve Myers. I'm not exactly sure anyways, but glad to have you here. I wanted to ask you about kind of the cover art that you have there in the background. I love that NASCAR Racing 4 poster that's in the background. Could you have imagined back then, what, 2000 or so, 1999, being able to put on something like this on this scale, you know, almost 25 years later?
Yeah, it's a blast, and thanks for doing the broadcast tonight. You're doing a great job, and all the things you do for us in the Cars Tour as well, I believe, right? So
yes, sir. Thank you.
You're doing a terrific job. But yes, you know, that poster back there, actually, I put it in my will that's going to Dale Jr. when I die someday.
Wow.
He wanted it, and I said, I'll tell you what, I'll put it in my will for you, and you can have it. So my wife was actually quite thrilled about that. She did not want it. That's why it's down here in my man cave. That's why it's there.
That's some fantastic stuff. Really great insight there.
It is fantastic to be able to do this. This is the third year now. We've raised $100,000 over the last 2 years. Hopefully we can do 50 again this year. And I know that on the way up until the pre-race, we'd already been to 12 or 15 or so. So it sounds like people are doing a great job so far, raising money for a great cause.
Certainly so. I know I was kind of talking with Nick a little bit earlier, but I've seen you guys the last couple of days. You and Chad have been putting in a lot of time trying to get ready for this race. How did that go for you the last couple of days?
I probably put like a good 15 to 20 hours of practice in.
Wow.
Because I don't want to embarrass myself, but I'm sure I'm still going to figure out a way to do that. My wife thought I was going to, she did, I'm wearing my Coke Esports.
Yeah, official.
Part of the reason for that was, one, I'm hoping it gives me a little speed, but two, my wife said that I was never going to wear it, so she was trying to throw it away. So I'm proving a point to her that I am wearing the shirt. So that's, and it's probably going to embarrass my kids as well too. So that I'm happy about those two things, and hopefully again a little speed.
Well, hopefully so. Again, we won't hold you up too long, but Steve, again, thank you for all you've done for iRacing, and hopefully things go well when you get behind the wheel.
All right, thanks. I think I'm coming up here in a few minutes.
Challenge brings itself forward then.
All right, we'll let you get ready for it, guys.
The challenge brings itself forward as now it's all about the charge. They now have an understanding of, okay, this is where they are in the race, and now they've got to try and bring themselves back through. They are one lap down at this point in time with a lot of work left to do in terms of what they're going. But Arjuna, it seems at the moment that GTP stands for GT penalty at this point.
Yes, our race leading 499 has got a black flag, courtesy of the team over at Pure Sims. I mentioned Don Squirek has already raised $4,000 along with his team at Pure Sims, and so they've elected, you know what, let's throw another 350 into the pile, and let's take our race leaders down a peg. It's going to give the Taco Shop Racing a bit of an opportunity, but I have been keeping an eye on the lap times. They had blown away to a bit of a big lead initially in what was a crazy start. It's been starting to come down, and the GTPs through traffic have been getting interestingly fun. I get the sense that this is the first, potentially, of many penalties.
Yeah, once you get one, it starts to fly itself forward, and you just keep on ticking over with those. So they will have a lot of work to do in terms of how they will go about their race now. With a drive-through penalty in the back pocket now, or a stop-and-go penalty actually as it is, they will now be dropping out of that race lead, which will then be inherited, as it currently stands here, Reese, to the Taco Shop Racing #2 team that started 11th here today.
Yeah, one of the many cars that wasn't able to set a qualifying lap. I'm actually surprised to see there were so little cars that ended up putting a time on the board. But it is an endurance race, and of course, we do have the donation penalties in effect, so anything can happen. And it really doesn't matter where you qualify, as we've just seen. Andy Sharp here just behind in the Taco Shop Racing machine. He's doing very well at the moment, setting 3-minute 26-second lap times, and Nick Ebby here making sure that he loses as little time as possible before he comes in to serve that drive-through. And if I am not incorrect, I hear that we actually have had 2 penalties. Sorry, stop-and-go penalty. My apologies. A stop-and-go penalty that has been purchased there for our race leader.
Yeah, so a stop-and-go penalty by one of the great sim racing teams out there, Pure Sims Esports, the team founded by the BTCC 3-time champion Ash Sutton, is now on the brakes into Mulsanne corner and dealing with a little bit of the Toyota traffic to navigate by. That field has certainly spread itself out a little bit, Arjuna, and part of that, I think, is down to the fact that when you've got 2 categories of machiner out there, if you haven't already, you can scan the QR code to donate, and you can give any car in this field a penalty of your choice if you hit the donating thresholds for that. So make sure you scan and get yourself in on top of that today. If you're looking at that Toyota GR86 field, you're looking at that and you're going, well, okay, it's very spread out because you've got so much quicker cars that, you know, every time you're going into a corner, you're having to scramble to get out of the way.
Yeah, the crazy thing is 17 GR86 started. 17 of them are still running, with the exception of one who's been sitting in pit lane for about 10 minutes and counting. I'm not sure if they've already used their one fast repair for this race or not, but we saw the draft pack earlier, and I think we were getting quite excited about what we might get to see. We've only really seen that out of these two cars, the Trans Team number 12 and the Blake Rios Racing number 11. You'll see the speed difference on the GTP as it looks to the inside. I mean, we're talking, what, 100 miles an hour difference there, Reese?
Yeah, oh, I actually calculated the top speeds in the practice session. The GR86 reaches 126 miles an hour at the fastest point of the circuit. Meanwhile, the GTPs are doing 200. So it's like coming up on a car stopped on the freeway. And at corners like this, coming into Indianapolis, that could certainly be a choke point. I'm expecting, as the stop-and-go penalty is being served there for the 499 Racing machine, I'm expecting at the entry to the fastest corners on this circuit, if not a few crashes, then plenty of close calls, of which we've already seen many, Jake.
We have seen many close calls, and I think that's what makes this incredible, is the fact that every time we go out and we see racing like this isn't going to be predictable, this isn't going to be easy in terms of who's going to reach the checkered flag and get the victory at the end of the racing. They're going to have to work for it, and positioning is going to be key in terms of what they go and conduct their racing with. And you can sense that with every single category, this is going to be about staying alert. Probably what you'd say is the most diverse field in terms of range at this point in time, though, Arjuna, is GT1s, which find themselves with 3 cars within half a minute, and then a huge gap back to the 4th and 5th place battle as we focus on that 499 Racing car that's got itself back out and away again, and is with a little bit of company. That's the number 1 THF Racing car, Thiago Fernandez, just behind.
And of course, just coming out of pit lane, you got to wonder if maybe tires slightly depressurized, and so for Nick Ebbe, he's going to be a little bit worried about that. But into that first braking zone, not much drama. Drama's happening in this GTP class. I said I'm expecting a few more penalties. Pure Sims decided, you know what, not one. It's time for a second penalty the way of the 499. So I think we'll see that Cadillac back down on the lane in a couple of laps' time.
I think we will make it a double, says Pure Sim Esports. You are not going to have the race lead of this race. We're going to put you as far away from that place as possible. The chase will be on the remaining stage of the race. We've not really had a chance to talk strategy, Reese, in terms of how they go through, but it seems pretty plain sailing in terms of what most of these teams and drivers are going to do. Run that tank dry as off the road goes, I think that was the 24, maybe the 25 there that found itself in trouble over at Indianapolis corner. One of the most unique places to try and find a good braking zone. I've never got it right there.
Yeah, never. It's especially difficult in a GT1 because you got to brake before the corner. Yeah, in terms of strategy, we are expecting that drivers are just going to run the tank dry. And just for context, the GTPs can make it about 10 or 11 laps, I believe, around this place. GT1's a little bit more. Tank should last a bit more than an hour. And the GR86, well, they've obviously got a road car fuel tank in it, and it barely uses any fuel per lap. So those guys and girls are going to be able to go very long in that bottom class as we keep an eye here out of Arnage and on the way up to the Porsche Curves Cadillac battle here. Pup and Suds, number 4. That's the battle for 3rd place, and chasing there, Stephen Jones and the Donkey Bop Racing 001 car, number 96 on the way through now. And wow, it's amazing seeing the speed that these GTP cars carry through these corners. It's immense.
Well, I'm not sure at the moment, Arjuna, as they're going to go through and look to try and challenge. There is your GT1 leader, Riley Graham, in the Desert Dolphins, finding himself a full 29 seconds to the good over Indy Autosport Gold. Absolutely flying away now there in that Corvette and really charging. In fact, that same category, lap traffic at the moment. Into the pits goes the 499 Racing Team car to serve their second of the penalties. But there's also teams coming in to serve for fuel now in GTP. And Arjuna, here's the conundrum for Nick Eby. and 499 Racing, they've got to serve their penalty before they can take any service. They have to go around another lap, but they won't have the fuel to make it another lap.
Yeah, the timing is not great. It's about 30 seconds to slow roll yourself down the lane, serve the stop and go and release yourself, but they're going to be hyper-miling their way around the track and hoping they've got enough fuel. I'm curious for the GT1s what fuel mileage looks like as well, because we've got the mix of the Aston Martin and the Corvettes, of course, slightly different engine displacement there and power output. We've already seen one of the race-leading contenders, the Ravenhold 337, the Aston Martin, come down to the lane. Clearly the Corvettes can go a little bit longer because the 27 and the 25 have gone one lap longer, but pit lane's busy as the Cadillac entry comes on in.
Yeah, so Chad Knaus will drive down in through the pits and look to make some service here with an hour, 44 minutes and 30 seconds remaining on the clock to make that first stop. And he looks a little bit shell-shocked there, Reese.
Yeah, I don't blame him. He's certainly been through it in this race so far, not just getting that penalty that Tony Kanaan served them, but also the contact with the GR86 coming up to Tetre Rouge. That car is already battered, it's already used its fast repair, and now it looks like we may or may not have a driver change going on there too. We will have to wait and see, and see what Steve Myers is able to do in that car when he jumps on in. Looks like they're off the jacks and they should be getting ready to go very shortly, probably just waiting on fuel after getting the tires changed.
Yeah, so tires and fuel that are there, and off and away will go Steve Myers, and he will look to now take the second stint of the challenge then here in this Race for More 2.4, the iRacing special event that's got itself at this point raised at a current $21,589.13 to a fantastic cause. You can see there on the bottom right of your screen, just under a very, very brilliant looking Steve Myers, who's now looking to charge through now the opening stages of the lap, which Arjuna absolutely flies forward. We've got the battle on for 7th in your GR86s, and the GTPs of those who have yet to come down and make a stop. We've got ourselves a lead.
Yeah, there's plenty of intrigue around the track as a couple of cars have separated themselves from the equation. You've got the Donkey Bop, one of the better team names in the field, being chased down by Pup and Suds, maybe closely followed for second in terms of best team name in GTP. And we continue to track the fight between the number 12 machine, which just continues to be involved in some sort of fight. Now, it's not just Blake Rios Racing in the 11 that's there. Ibex's number 19 and Ram Mulvey have managed to get up in front of them momentarily, but ultimately, the GR86s, once you're locked in this sort of drafting train, once you've found yourself with cars that you can fight with, you're going to get locked in this fight. And Jay Kennedy reliably informs me this fight has swapped around 8 different times in the last 10 minutes. Make that a 9th time.
Make that a 9th. 1, 2, and 3 into the pits. A big chain of smoke then from the Donkey Bop Racing team as they look to go through. Now, one thing that does make this racing rather unique in terms of how you go about your action race is that you can choose to do this any number of ways. You can choose to do it in a team, or you can choose to solo.
Yeah, exactly. Solo drivers are allowed, and well, it's going to be a real hard slog racing for 144 minutes straight in any of these cars around this circuit. But of course, you can give driving duties to a teammate as well as this battle continues on in the GR86s. One thing that the teams will have to take into account, though, if they are doing driver swaps, is there is a flat time of 30 seconds in the pits for a driver swap, and oh dear, that is a big spin. It looks like that battle's going to be broken up there.
Yeah, Lucy Klinger then, the number 12 trans team car goes around, and very much, Arjuna, it looked like just clobbering the curb, getting a little bit of air, and suddenly the traction control kicked in hyperdrive, spinning the car around.
Well, also just went way too deep into the corner, very much misjudged the braking zone, and so, well, once you carried that much speed, it was always difficult to maintain it through the corner. There are the GTP leaders rolling themselves off the lane, though. It is going to be at a slight deficit to the Taco Shop Racing team that have taken slightly less fuel in the first stop of the race and find themselves with an almost 10-second buffer back to Donkey Bop Racing.
Yeah, and you've also got the likes of Team Carla Maria Barberi, who I think hasn't yet come down and made a stop. Here's a look behind on the Hachiroku, the GR86, and the pressure that has been on this group going through is going to be really interesting to see. We do have a GT1 pit stop though from the leaders. The Desert Dolphins, Reese, are in the pits, as we can see from the timing tower.
Indeed, and well, they have got quite the gap back to second place Indy Autosport Gold, but we're expecting them to come in very shortly. P4 in GTP still on here. Steve Bauer, Pup and Suds getting out there after the pit stop, and looks like he has a reasonable gap back to Tiago Fernandez in the THF racing car, but he seems to be starting to chase down Stephen Jones in the Donkey Bot car. He's well within slipstream range, so should be getting a nice speed boost, and it's a nice clear track ahead of them for at least the next few corners. The next lower class car they're going to come up on is Brenton Floyd in the number 21 GR86, but into the second chicane they go. Seemed like Bauer was a little bit later on the brakes there. Could be making up some time.
Could be making that time up, can also be sitting back and saying, well, I don't want to get too close, so I have some time to react when I see some traffic. And sight lines really important, Arjuna, when it comes to prototype and especially at the top end GTP style racing.
Yes, absolutely. And especially if you find yourself in situations like these where you're trying to dive to the inside of slower cars and you'll suddenly find that maybe your references are unsighted. The other thing that we do have to deal with in iRacing, Jake, and I've had a lot of conversations about this in the last couple of weeks, is moving references. Because when iRacing first released, when we did some of these longer races, we had static weather, right? Which meant that certain drivers, like myself, use shadows as references. You know what moves, though, as the sun moves? Shadows. So as we go into the next era of iRacing, as we start to think about rain, I'm just warning every up-and-coming iRacer. Don't use shadows as your references, but be very careful about what else you're using as well.
Yeah, don't use puddles either. Puddles evaporate and dry out, so don't use that as a frame of braking marker as you go through. But that's going to be something, that development, that future, that we'll be looking to touch on, hopefully, a little bit later in our show here today. We are getting word that we might have an opportunity to chat a little bit later on with Greg Hill over from iRacing to see a little bit of the understanding of what goes on behind the scenes to build it forward. That looks like a bit of trouble, though, for a Corvette. Look at that. That is not ideal for the number 24 car there. That is the John's Viking machine finding a very adventurous route through the chicanes.
Yeah, that's no good for them. Number 24 managing to get on there, and, well, we'll see if he manages to recover that. Also getting news of the number 27 getting a bit of a whack. Apparently, Pure Sims is back on the charge here and have paid $350 to give a stop-go penalty to our GT1 leader.
37 seconds down the road, I don't blame them at this point. This is the sort of race where you have to, Arjuna, I would say, not overachieve, because overachieving is going to put you right in the penalty firing line, but also not underachieve, so you can't capitalize from it.
No, you very much want to find that very tricky middle ground of not being too impressive and also not being too unimpressive, or maybe getting into the bad books of some of the other competitors out there on track. Back over with the GR86s, though, where suddenly we may have a fight for the race lead as Santiago Gonzalez in the HyperX Sim Race City 18, say that team name 5 times fast, I tell you, hunting down the throttle gobbler car. Jacob Burke starting to feel the pressure, and last time alone, 10 seconds gained by the second place machine.
And these laps are 5 minutes, just about cresting over. So to lose 10 seconds on a lap is the equivalent, say, of losing 2 or 3 seconds in another race that you've got going forward. As there is the confirmation of penalty there from Pure Sims Esports. They give it to the Desert Dolphins. There is work to be done for them to maintain that margin. But this is for these two drivers at the front. Hyper Sim Race City, you've got the Throttle Gobbler team. These two teams are lockstep in tandem. They're 22 seconds down the road here, Reese, and because they are lockstep in tandem, it now becomes a bit of a battle, and on for the race lead overall is going to meet. So you're going to see two battles right now, Reese, merge on the same piece of real estate on the run to Indianapolis.
Yeah, but you see that car number 2 there? They are going to have to give up that position anyway, because I've just received word that Pure Sims Esports has given a penalty to them as well. They're defending like a lion into Indianapolis, and it looks like the traffic is helping out with that a little bit. Carla Maria Barberi having a big old look at Andy Sharp, but the GR86 has put paid to that for now, but he will see that car in front of him pull into the pits very shortly.
Yeah, and that might not be the plan that was needed from them at the front. Very much off kilter, the Carla Maria Barberi team out there. Had a couple of, I would say, uninformed laps, lap 2, lap 3. Since then, has been out there going through. He's going to push a little bit wide. We're going to see almost too wide around the Porsche curves. And that is the one sole reason why in prototype style machinery, you don't see that. We talk about turbulence in a series like this, in a race like this. Dirty air effect is paramount in terms of this, Arjuna.
Yes, it is, but I think we're going to see both of them potentially peel off to the lane because, yep, the BMW behind, yet to make a pit stop, had done 14 complete laps without coming down to the lane. That's almost 50 minutes of racing, given that we traditionally see the GTPs anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes. That's a pretty remarkable run. Don't think he's going to shave a pit stop off by any means, and so as the battle for the lead in the GTPs dissipates for the time being, it means we can focus back in on this GR86 train. Just to note as well, penalties are not the stop and goes that we talked about slightly earlier. They are now drive-through penalties, which is where the 30.5 second delta comes from, as a throttle of the car a bit too greedy on the throttle, and now down to second.
New leader then, High Prix Sim Race City, finds themselves through Santiago Ramirez Gonzalez, now at the pointy end, and it gets interesting still as they push on forward in this for Thiago Fernandez, for Steve Bauer, Pup and Suds, THF Racing on the back of Donkey Bot. This is effectively your race lead battle right now, 1, 2, and 3, with Taco Shop having a penalty to serve in the not too distant future. Now it's about patience, and you can play this any number of ways. You can choose to lead from the front, you can decide to sit in the middle with the best place to try and make the moves, or you can watch it with a nice bit of popcorn if you're there in third position on the road race.
Yes, indeed. Nice gap back to third, and this is a bit of racing tactics, I think, that we're seeing. So Steve Bauer in the Pup and Suds entry, he'll be watching these two going at it ahead of him, and he'll be thinking, yeah, okay, if a move is made, they're going to slow each other up, and that could give a chance to me. But we also see that Fernandez actually lifting off a little bit at the end of the straight. He's not going to go for this move just yet. There's potential here for a bit of strategy, a little bit of thinking ahead. Fernandez might be lifting off not just to delay the move, but to save fuel as well.
We're going to take a step aside here for just one moment here with our things. We're going to go side by side as we take a little bit of a quick look with our sponsor.
We are a movement by and for people affected by multiple sclerosis.
Until we end this disease forever, we will do whatever it takes
to accelerate breakthroughs.
We believe that we are stronger together.
That nobody should face MS alone.
We will be by your side every step of your journey.
From day one.
We'll be your partner through the challenges.
Sharing ideas and finding solutions.
We believe
that people live better lives
when they are understood and supported.
It's hard to hear.
But you look so good.
When you feel anything but.
Or to feel like MS is the only thing people see.
We will be there for your loved ones so they can be there for you. We'll shine a light on what it means to live with MS.
Till the rest of the world understands.
We believe that everyone deserves affordable medications.
A doctor who knows MS.
And a healthcare system that puts you first.
You should never have to choose
between paying your bills
and getting the care you need.
We will make sure your voice is heard loud
and clear.
We'll be your champion
from the halls of Congress
to City Hall.
We believe that you should be able to plan for the next 10 years.
Even the next 10 minutes.
Without MS getting in the way.
Complex problems take many solutions.
Coming together in just the right way.
We'll be there to help you piece it all together.
We'll work every day
so you can get what you want from life.
Even while living with this disease.
We believe that no one else should have to face the fear
and uncertainty
of an MS diagnosis.
And that those that have MS
should get back what they've lost.
Curing this disease takes a global effort.
We will fund the most
promising leads
and gather the brightest minds
to find a cure
as fast as possible.
We'll be unrelenting
until the very
end.
We believe that we all have something to contribute.
Whether it's time,
money,
connections,
or sheer passion,
there's strength
in numbers.
We're calling on you to join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Find your place in this movement.
We need you.
We need you.
We need you.
Together, we will create a world free of MS.
Coverage today of this Race for More 2.4 is brought to you by the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. Every $5,000 that gets donated is the equivalent of 1 month of support for an MS research fellow to help launch the career of the next great MS research leader. Donate while you can. The donation train keeps on rolling here with us and with iRacing. They do a fantastic amount of work and are the leaders in trying to help over 1 million people in the United States make a change with multiple sclerosis. The chart, though, has been very clear over the course of this race. We've been seeing a mix of the old and now a bridge into the new. We're going to have the opportunity, though, to get a bit of a conversation with Aussie Greg Hill over at iRacing and get a bit of an understanding of what might be coming up on the horizon.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. My name's Greg Hill and I'm the executive producer here at iRacing. Happy to support the Race for More 2.4 for the 3rd year now. It's such a great cause and thanks to all the donors, sponsors, and participants. Now, one thing I've done the last few years is this is a great platform to share details with folks about how things are going with iRacing development. Last year I provided details on a project to add rain, which I know there's a lot of interest. And it's clear that this has been a significant project given that we've been sharing details during this venue for some time now. It's not as simple as adding rain, what we're doing. We're truly overhauling and upgrading our entire weather system and scientifically simulating atmospheric conditions, everything that makes up weather, such as air pressure, temperature, moisture, and all the variability that goes into that. You can see a video playing here in the background, and it shows how weather can play out over time. So we start off here with a sunny day, and there's a menacing looking cloud on the horizon. And over time, that cloud blows in to the racetrack on the wind currents, and it's starting to rain. So as the track starts to get wet, you can see that water flows and collects in the low-lying areas. There's some puddles forming. As the race cars drive around, they're now dealing with a dynamic situation. Polished lines that were once safe in the dry are now treacherous in the wet, and cars need to find effective wet lines. Eventually the rain subsides and the sun comes back out. So as the track heats back up and the surfaces are exposed to the sun, the water begins to evaporate more quickly and the track shows patches of dry surfaces. The cars themselves contribute to this driving, and you'll see clear paths evolved where they're traveling. During this entire process, iRacers, are having to make calculated decisions based on their observations and the forecast of the weather, on when to change tires, strategically, whether it even makes sense, and it's just going to change iRacing significantly. iRacing is already a very dynamic experience, and these rain systems and advanced weather systems will take it to the next level. So we're really excited to share with you these videos. It's really the first motion that we've shown in a while. Just do note that the VFX are placeholder. There's still a bit more work to go. Of course, this is just one project, and there's a ton more going on at iRacing across our many racing categories. We just released a major upgrade to our dirt racing system that we've called Dirt Refresh, and we're now working on a project with similar goals called Oval Refresh. In both of these projects, we evaluated the state of track dynamics, the tires, the cars themselves, with an overall goal to improve the racing and realism. So Oval Refresh will be released when it's ready, and we're really excited to have invested time into that, and it's very important to us. There's also many significant other projects going on around iRacing to improve in just about every area, starting at the foundations of the sim itself. We actually have a team working to re-architect the sim at the very lowest levels to provide a more optimized and future-ready product. And this has already resulted in improvements that we've released. You guys might have seen in the last build, we dramatically improved loading times, actually. And that was an area in iRacing that was suboptimal for sure in the past. So we were excited to improve those. In the next build, we're going to be continuing this work with the addition of more unique cars that can be loaded at one time, which will really let us expand our offering, and we're excited about that. Now, this optimization work will continue and will affect all areas of the sim eventually: graphics, audio, physics, and other core systems, and we'll be continuing to invest in the sim at its most foundational levels. Additionally, our physics and tire team has expanded in size, and we brought in some new veteran voices from across the sim industry, and there's significant efforts right now to modernize this area with tire modeling advancements, physics rate increases, and just ongoing progress in general. It's a real area of focus. Audio will also see a significant evolution soon. That team has also been bolstered in ranks with new additions and veteran voices from around the industry. More features, more modern features are going to be added. Audio is just really a key component of a realistic experience, and racing in particular, and it's going to be better than ever. I'd say just overall, at iRacing, things are more exciting than they've ever been. We've made such significant investments into our team and to bringing in new talent and new voices to really help us evolve and take things to the next level, not only in terms of quality, but also speed. We want to move more quickly. So combining all these new folks with our already veteran team of developers has just been really exciting. And we're really looking forward to the next few years, the next several years, where the product will evolve and improve and continue to offer our customers tremendous value. At the end of the day, we're in this business to provide the best racing sim there is, and it's incredibly important to us. We're all really passionate about what we do every day, and we love what we do. If you want to learn any more about what I've been discussing briefly here, but in more detail, there's a blog that I put out last week, and you can find that on our public site in the developer blog section. So check that out. There's a bunch of screenshots and get a bit more detail. As for today, I just wanted to thank you all again for participating in this awesome event, this great cause, and I hope to see you all out on the track soon. Thank you so much, and good racing. Bye.
Massive thanks there to Greg Hill, taking time off of his vacation to go and give us that incredible news as the battle on for the race lead overall. We just saw the second place in your GT86 go around in front of these drivers Thiago Fernandez are on board with. But Arjuna, pinch me, I'm dreaming. What an incredible time lapse that was.
Oh, there's so much for the iRacers to get excited about. Even if they're still waiting for the rain, there's some new tracks that are being teased. We're talking about modernizing things in the sim, and I think the most interesting thing is Greg talks about how a team of veteran sim racing producers have managed to bring even more experience and talent to the fold. I mean, boy, Rain's already looking so good, so many different systems working together. Can't wait to see how it impacts the iRacing special events.
Yeah, they are
absolutely
going to be massive in terms of how they go through. And Reese, this is, I think, probably the next great leap that we're seeing in terms of sim racing development with iRacing, and it's one we've been eagerly waiting for.
Yeah, for sure. I've been pinching myself, honestly, since I first saw Greg's post, his blog post, just seeing the sheer level of detail that's present in the rain update, and also good news there for the oval racers getting that oval refresh too. I'm a racetrack guy. I'm really excited about the new tracks coming. Of course, the Zandvoort upgrade is something that I've been really looking forward to. I can't wait to give that a spin when it comes out.
we're going to have a little bit of an opportunity then to get some perspective that has been going through in terms of racing action, as Blake McCandless has caught up with a driver in the opening stint in the Cadillac with Chad Knaus.
All right, we're standing by here with Chad Knaus, and it was just interesting, Chad, just before we got to talk to you here, we were kind of talking off air a little bit about, you know, the incident that you guys had earlier. You were kind of breaking it down. What kind of happened from your perspective there?
Well, first and foremost, my lack of driving talent showed up, but it was unfortunately, there was a car ahead of me that had damage, and I didn't know he was damaged when I was coming up on him, and I think he was coming to give me the outside. I was committed to the inside, and then I dropped a wheel off in the grass and unfortunately crashed. But really sad about that, quite honestly, because I thought things were going reasonably well. All I was really trying to do was get clean laps, and that way we could get Steve Myers in there and let Steve get a good stint, and then obviously Nick Ottinger is going to do a great job and let him finish it out. But you know, we're a lap down right now, unfortunately, but you know, hey, that's part of it. It's part of racing.
I do know, I was looking at the Zoom call a little bit when you were practicing, or if you were qualifying. I noticed your son was around and kind of, was he giving you any tips for tonight?
He was. He said, "Dad, win." And I said, "Okay, I'll try really hard." But unfortunately, we're going to fall a little short of that. But he loves it. He loves watching. He's been doing a little bit of driving, sitting on my lap, which has been really cool. And it's enjoyable. It really is. It's a lot of fun having him be a part of the iRacing community. And there's actually, if you do the AI racing, he's actually got his name in the AI version of iRacing, which is really cool. It's kind of fun when I get in there and I tinker around and I see his name up there.
Has he ever raced against himself in that AI, or has he put that together yet?
No. He's only 4 right now, so he's not quite there yet. But he's getting to the point where he's pressing me pretty hard about trying to get into a go-kart, start driving the sim rig, and he's having fun with it.
Well, I know also this racetrack was very special for you over the course of the last couple of months, and being able to put together Garage 56. Is there anything kind of, you know, full circle, being able to try and put some laps around this place as well?
It's a lot of fun. You know, obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but on-track experience at Le Mans, I didn't really have any. So to get prepared to go this year, I ran a lot of laps in the Corvette to try to get prepared for us to go over there, and it definitely helped. It translated. The things that we were looking at from a setup standpoint translated. The way we were calling the race strategy translated. So there was a lot of things that we used the tool for. And for me to get in tonight, it was actually a lot of fun. I actually felt more comfortable, albeit not fast, felt more comfortable at this racetrack than what I did when we were doing Road Atlanta last year.
Oh, all right. Well, all right, Chad. Again, we appreciate you taking the time. Just one more quick thing that I want to ask you before we get. Are you going to hop back in the car?
I think I'm done. I think Nick Ottinger is our team strategist and crew chief, and I think I got fired, unfortunately. So, but yeah, I do want to say this is a great event. The MS Society is something that's near and dear to my heart. I have a very, very close friend of mine that lives with MS, so being able to be here, contribute, raise funding for that is really special. So I do want to say thank you to everybody that's participating. It's not only a good, fun event, but it truly is for a great cause. So look forward to doing it again next year.
All right, Chad, thank you for taking the time. And again, congratulations on your nomination to the NASCAR Hall of Fame as well earlier this week. Everybody here is super excited and glad that you decided to spend your Thursday night with us for a good cause, as you said.
Right on. Thank you, guys.
Race on with 1 hour, 16 minutes and 41 seconds on the clock. This for your overall lead out there. The Donkey Bot Racing team, the number 96, have themselves controlled the field, but by just 1 second over the number 1 THF Racing team, with Thiago Fernandez looking to push and pressure Stephen Jones through the opening phases of the lap. This is an important moment right now as we are ticking around that halfway stage of the race. You set yourself up and drivers are thinking about, okay, now is the time to really start making that progress. And it has been a back and forth, Arjuna, something that we've loved to see over the course of this race so far.
But we've got that added complexion, right, of even if you feel like you've set yourself up nicely, you haven't used maybe that one fast repair just yet. What happens if another team decides, you know what, it's time for you to get a drive-through penalty, as we've already seen twice for that 499 race leading machine? Not such a concern for the number one, who up the inside on that run into the first chicane, as easy as you like, is going to slide past the Donkey Pop Racing car, and a new race leader here at the circuit to 24-hour Le Mans.
Yeah, a lovely pass on what is a very unique bit of racing road out there, Reese, because of the fact that this is a public road they drive on. You're racing from one roundabout to the other, and this is going to be something that they keep in mind, is that crown in the road. But we're going to take a little look then on the replay. Look at this in terms of the way that they drive through. Look at the difference in traffic. Oh, you can't get much closer.
Goodness, that was straight up contact there coming through. Absolutely threading the needle there, the number 96. That's incredible stuff. Donkey Bot Racing is absolutely caning it out there. And as we check back in on this battle in the GR86s, the trans team getting bump drafted by the Blake Rios Racing entry, they're making their way through nicely. They've got the GTPs to deal with now, the leaders making their way through. Yeah, good point that you make about this track mostly being public roads. You do have to deal with the crown in the road. You got to deal with bumps, and you've also got to deal with slightly less grip, because remember, this is not technically a racing surface that they're driving on. This is designed for all weather conditions. It's designed for vehicles to be running over it all the time. So you've got to take that into account when you're driving around here too.
You really do, and you really have to be alert to what this circuit gives compared to a traditional way you go through. Let's take a driver's eye view then as you go through. This is the view you get if you are driving this incredible machine out here on the iRacing service. Stephen Jones will take us through what is effectively a beautiful run, dicing it around with the traffic here and into the Porsche curves, Arjuna.
And you mentioned earlier, right, the lack of visibility of these prototypes we see. Just look at the A-pillar off to the left-hand side. That blocks a good, what, 25-30% of your view on that left side. And so when you're spotting some of those apexes, spotting your turn-in references as well, can be a little bit difficult. And with the tower disappearing, look at this. It's just black. It is just black that you get in front of you. And that's why drivers in iRacing have done various tricks over the years to try and make their lives a little bit easy, including on certain occasions moving the camera position into the center of the car. Now, I do not advocate for that because you lose maybe a sense of speed, but at least you can see your apexes, I guess.
You can, and talking about that sense of speed, just look on top of that exit of the final section, Reese. Absolutely fighting with the curb, and by that section there, the little bit of Astro runoff that you got there on the exit, that's basically just enough to say, well, I can spin the tires up a little bit. They're pushing.
Yeah, they really are, and you gotta wonder. Oh, okay, it looks like the leader has gotten caught up behind Nicholas Pressey in the GR86, and that has closed the gap for the lead. So looks to me like Stephen Jones is going to be pushing even further. But of course, as you mentioned, he has to take into account the curbs, especially in the final sector. Really rough through the final corner. They used to be able to cut that corner completely in the real world, but then they put an anti-cut curb on the inside, and it really does a number on the suspension.
So eyes very much firmly placed forward. Leads are currently 28 seconds and 24 seconds by GR86 and GT1 categories out there at this point. Such is the difference makers out there at this moment. This is the race on the third on the bottom of your screen in your GR86 category, and that then is going to be on with the Carousel Race Team KRT number 8 and Destino Motorsport. I'd say that's for 4 overall with everything is going on. Actually, no, it is the third, because I believe we just hit a pit stop cycle out there as points. So Daniel Nons looking for a move Arjuna down on the bottom of the screen as the GTP lead remains at around 8/10.
And you could just see the wallowing nature of that car under brakes. You can see the weight transfer, and you can see it just squat down as you get onto the brakes, and the counter momentum as you release off the brakes as well. And so it's, like I said earlier, a great car to develop some of those skills, because all of those things apply at top-level prototype racing. As you see the lights flash from the Cadillac blasting on past, it's just the amount of time you have to actually respond, to react to what you're feeling is so much shorter. And that's why when you get the best drivers into a slower car, you know they're going to be quick. Max Verstappen, two-time Formula One world champion, you know what he likes to do when he's a bit bored during a Formula One weekend? He breaks out a controller and will race in an MX-5 or a GR86 with his Team Redline teammates. It's a wonderful thing to see.
I tell you what, it just goes to show you the power of sim racing, and that it now at the highest level is the perfect training tool for drivers to go out there and accelerate their abilities. But it's not just about that, it's about what that GR86 does in terms of accelerating Reese, because it's something that over in the Australian scene of racing, the GR86 is often driven around a lot, and a lot of drivers get themselves the opportunity to race that. But also what Gazoo Racing has been as an institution, as that brand goes through. Round is the trouble for number 42. Very nearly clobbers out the Jones Viking 24 Corvette in the same process. But when we're talking about the GR86, we watched the lead battle once again. It's about Gazoo Racing and what they've done as a prospect to move forward, how the Toyota brand have basically added a racing division on top of it and been so incredible with it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's really awesome to see how involved Toyota has been with setting up the GR86 Cup category in the real world. I know that, as you mentioned, down here in Australia, we do have our own series for that, and it's resulted in a bit of a stepping stone to our top series down here, down under. Really an awesome introduction into touring car or sports car racing, as it were. And I mean, the challenge that the vehicle offers on iRacing really prepares you for the real world. I wanted to mention earlier the rear end of that GR86. It dances around into the corners. You've really got to balance it on those thin, skinny tires.
Yeah, it is a balancing act. You're almost walking a tightrope through every single corner, and it's such with the way that the car is set up that it is built to want to go sideways. It is built with that in mind. And speaking of which, a little bit there of a wiggle for Stephen Jones and Donkey Bot Racing Car. They now fall outside of 2 seconds almost now here away from THF Racing, who are driving away with that ability to just be consistent. And consistency often is what makes you king or queen in a race like this, Arjuna.
Yeah, we talk about the differences at this level of racing, whether you're talking real or virtual. Being consistent around a lap as long as this, with so many different factors, with traffic playing its part, is so difficult to do. And it's when you analyze some of the lap time data after these races and you see, oh, the best drivers can consistently get within, we're not talking seconds of their lap times, we're talking hundreds, tenths of a second every single time. Part of that, I feel, is not just, of course, people will say, oh, they're just focused on what's going on, but there is a rhythm that you can get into at a track like this. There's plenty of time for you to relax a little bit down the straight, even if you're a bit scared about the traffic lurking in the rearview mirror. And it means that you can do 3-4 hours at a track like this without getting too mentally stressed, without getting too mentally fatigued, whereas iRacing lets you also do a 4-hour endurance race solo at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. That's a very different sort of an experience, even if you can do it also in a GR86.
Absolutely, and I think we're just going to start seeing now what makes this race so unique from others. This isn't like every other iRacing special event that's out there when you go through. Not only is this an incredible charity incentive that we're here racing with, Reese, but you at home have the opportunity to influence the race. If you scan your QR code, you have the opportunity to donate and put your money through. You have the ability to change the aspect of this race. You are effectively race control. You can say drive-through penalty for that driver just cuz.
Yeah, for sure. Bring up your phone, scan the QR code, and get your donations in. We're already at almost $23,500 raised, which is absolutely fantastic seeing the GTP leader come in because, well, it's interesting that we're talking about penalties then because Pure Sims Esports once more have given a drive-through penalty to the lead car. We are going to see a replay, though. Apparently, one of our cars out there has had a slight issue.
Yeah, this will be the Johns Viking number 24. So this is with the GR86s, and this is what we call the back end of. So look at this. Back end steps out. Where do you want to go? Having to absolutely duke over to the inside, Arjuna. You have to make a commitment at that point to go to the inside, and that was very fortunate.
And you also hope that the other driver has held their brakes, isn't on the throttle, trying to get out of the spin as quickly as possible. Oh, well, a change of pants, I think, ordered in that 24 for Justin Smith. But ultimately, once you have committed to the choice, you've got to stick with it. And I've got to say, commendable on both sides that we got through that one safely, although I do get the sneaking suspicion as we look at that drive-through penalty. Pure Sims, by the way, with 5 drive-through penalties so far. Jake, is our winners in each of our classes going to be determined by the bank account size of Ash Sudden and Pure Sims?
Maybe. It's very, very dependent on who decides they want to go and give to who. And, you know, everybody's got an equal opportunity. It just depends how equal the bank accounts are, it seems, at this point in time. But we will see later on in the race if talent will prevail or the drive to donate to charity. We will see how that plays out. 1 hour, 4 minutes, and 36 seconds here on the clock. And I think it's important to know that we are racing for a reason here with the National Multiple Sclerosis Society here, and the work that is done, the charity drive that's put through by an incredible system leading the charge. Over 1 million Americans are affected by multiple sclerosis over the course of their lives. And on top of that, it's all about a drive that has been getting better and better as they go through. So they've been putting all that fantastic effort in. Speaking of effort, though, we're soon hitting playoff season, and Blake McCandless has managed to find someone watching the action intently, that being Michael Conti.
All right, great to have Michael Conti standing by during this event. I know we got to chat with your good buddy Nick Ottinger earlier, but glad that you're able to be out here on a Thursday night. I know you've been able to watch a little bit of the race, so kind of what's your impression of it so far?
Yeah, man, the racing's been really good. It's been cool to see like all the different people out here. It's a good mix of like industry people, a bunch of iRacers, names that I know, and a bunch that I don't know. But obviously the common goal is to help end MS, and with over 20 grand raised so far tonight, I'd say we're doing a good job. So it's cool to see Chad and Steve out here with Nick. I know they're a little bit behind right now, but hopefully they can make it up. But it's been a really cool event so far. Definitely enjoying it.
Yeah, for sure. I think I saw earlier in the chat, again, about 30 minutes ago, it was already up close to 22,000 or so, and hopefully we've eclipsed even more than that since then. But of course, the big deal with you now, moving forward in the Coke Series playoffs, we had the regular season finale on Tuesday night. You know, I know you've been at this for a long time, and I know we can get into the championship talk here in a second, but just the fact that you have 4 races left in your Coke Series career, I know in a way it has to be a little bit bittersweet for you.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like, this year has just gone by so quickly. I don't know if it's the fact that it's my last year, or I don't know. We've just been heads down so much, really trying to just make the most out of this thing, show up every week with a super fast car. But yeah, I mean, it's like in the blink of an eye, we're already to the playoffs. So yeah, it's definitely bittersweet. I'm certainly going to miss a lot about this series. But the good thing about knowing that it's the end is that you know that you don't have another opportunity after this. Like, if I don't feel motivated to get on here one night and run some laps, like, I have to say to myself, okay, this is it. You're done after this. Just push through and make it work. So I think that mindset and that mentality has really been helpful this year, and that's why we've been so fast. so often. But yeah, obviously playoffs got to kick it up another notch. A lot of good drivers in there, and we'll see what happens. Things are crazy, they're unpredictable, but all we can do is try to show up, be fast, and do the best we can.
Well, and I know this upcoming round, you have a couple of differing racetracks, Michigan, Dover, Phoenix. Is there any one of those three? I know you want to do well at all of them, but is there any one of those three that you've kind of had circled where, maybe if things don't go the way you planned in the first two or the other two that, maybe you can kind of lean back on that win to try and get into the championship for?
Yeah, for sure. Michigan, the way we have to race that track now, it's going to be very similar to what we saw at Pocono last Tuesday. Big draft packs, very line dependent. It's going to be tough to pass, I think. So we're obviously putting a lot of effort into Michigan, but honestly, I'm kind of going in with the mindset of it's basically a plate race, give or take. So, Michigan withstanding Dover and Phoenix after that, you probably couldn't pick two better tracks for me based on just how I've run there in the past. One twice at Dover and one at Phoenix a very long time ago on a different configuration, but it's still a flat track. It still kind of races like a short track, and our cars have been just ridiculously fast on flat short tracks this year. So if I cannot step on it in qualifying and actually put in a good lap at Phoenix, I think we'll have a strong shot. And then Dover, myself and Nick, that's a great track for us, so I know we'll be strong there. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully Michigan goes well and we're in a good point spot after that, but if it doesn't, we've got two really good ones coming up after it.
I also know you're native to the Charlotte area, and of course with the Hall of Fame hosting once again the championship race for the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Is there any more pressure or a little bit of pride, in trying to keep it? I know we had someone from Matthews win it last year, so any kind of incentive to maybe try and keep that Dale Earnhardt Jr. championship trophy in the foothills of North Carolina?
Believe me, there's a lot more incentive than you or really anybody else knows for a couple different reasons, but in the interest of time, I will not go into that long story. But yes, plenty of incentive. I definitely want to get down there. It's literally 20-ish minutes away from me. I work about 5 minutes away in Uptown. So to be able to go to the Hall of Fame and end my career competing for a championship, possibly winning my second finally, would be just absolutely amazing. I couldn't even imagine it. But like I said, there's so much in between now and then that could go wrong, and there's a lot that we hope goes right. So we'll see what happens, but proud of what we've done this year, proud of our WR1 team, and hoping to finish it off strong.
All right, Michael, well, we'll let you get back to watching the race again. Really appreciate you taking your time here tonight. And as a matter of fact, we just talked about a Matthews native. Let's talk to him in Casey Kerwin as we move forward here. Now, Casey, you're a little bit busier. You're behind the wheels, but this is, you're a streamer. This is nothing new to you, but how are things going tonight so far?
Going pretty decent. I had a bit of a spin in the first stint. But car's clean.
Your team or were you driving?
No, I was driving. It was I caught a pack of Toyotas into the final chicane, and the car did not like the change of direction, and I went around.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been fun. Haven't driven the Caddy at Le Mans yet, so it's been fun to do that. And it's been a fun event so far, and I think we're like a net P6, P5, somewhere in that range, so we'll see where we end up.
I was about to ask, I know the speed disparity has been quite drastic between the cars. Has that been something that, I know it's a charity event, we're all here to have fun, but how has that been to try and manage? Because I know in every split I've seen, it's been pretty crazy so far.
Yeah, I think it's been a bit better now that it's a bit more spread out, but the first run or two through the Toyotas with the big pack of prototypes was pretty wild. And of course it just kind of fell to the place where we caught them was the Porsche curve, so the sketchiest place to catch all of them. So that was wild, but it's kind of sorted itself out, and it's been pretty spaced out lately.
All right, well, I know you're a total pro. We'll move forward into playoff talk for the Coke Series. Obviously, you have that gigantic trophy that's right behind you in your setup. You're looking to bring another one back home this year, but arguably, you have been stronger this year than your championship season last year? You've been running better. You're carrying a lot of momentum into the playoffs. What's it going to kind of take to reset, refocus here for these next 4 races to try to win this championship again?
Yeah, I think stats-wise, we've been better in terms of, we've won twice, that kind of thing. But I've honestly felt like we've struggled more for speed this year. I felt like we had like top 5, top 10 cars every single week last year. This year hasn't been the case. But we've done a better job of executing the races well, I think, to get good finishes. So, yeah, I think it's still been a really good year, obviously. We have decent speed. I think just kind of depends on the track. We've been lacking the Conti and those guys kind of everywhere, it seems. Just a bit of natural pace. But I think with all the effort that'll be going in for the playoffs, we can try and get a bit closer and have some form for the next 3 races. And I feel like all 3 tracks are really good tracks for me. So, yeah, hopefully we'll have good speed and do our jobs and have a shot at it again.
Well, if anything, all the effort that goes into that, as you were just talking about. But do you think having that championship experience, being able to go through the playoffs, get to the Final Four, win that championship on a stage unlike any other that we've had in this series so far, do you think that's an advantage for you, being able to have had that experience and to go on that stage and perform so well? Is that something that kind of gives you a little more confidence approaching the playoffs this time around?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just, you kind of understand, you get through your first year of this is kind of the unknowns and the nerves of, being in the playoffs for the first time. Now you're a bit more used to it. And obviously, if we're lucky enough to be in the Final Four again and have a shot at it, obviously knowing how that all works and feels and everything too. So, yeah, it's been good. And like I said, hopefully we'll have another shot at it and can use put the experience to use.
Let's hope you can do that. Thank you for joining us. And by the way, thank Gonzo. He even hopped in this Discord channel as well. He was ready in case you needed him. Very committed spotter right there. But Michael, Casey, again, thank you guys for your time. And we'll throw it back up to you guys in the booth.
54 minutes and 37 seconds remaining. There is Carlo Maria Barberi, who leads this race in the number 5 BMW and is out in front on a longer stint strategy compared to those who are around, as the Donkey Bot Racing team got their penalty, changed their driver to Jean-Francois Godin, who's one of the first sim racers I actually had an opportunity to talk with back when I was very, very young. And they're in now to serve their penalty directly this time, but their lead now 21 seconds on the alternative strategy. I want to take some time myself now here on this show, because we are 15 years here of sim racing, to say what do we absolutely love in terms of the 15 years that we've gone through. Arjuna, my best memory of 15 years of sim racing is what got me into sim racing in the first place, and that's the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. I absolutely loved that. I had the opportunity to broadcast on that, be on a few shows there. But the work that went through on the competitive scene of iRacing was incredible. Legends of the sport, Gregor Hutu, Martin Kroenke, and the rise of Sebastian Job, who then was an upstart who could do some incredible work. Olli Pakala, Alexei Usiakala, all those drivers were absolutely fascinating to me when I first got into sim racing.
Yeah, and I mean, some of those names are still around, right? You think of Sebastian Job, but even go back to maybe some of the less well-known names in terms of competition, but those that have made their mark elsewhere. Pablo GoPro Lopez, part of that iRacing Grand Prix Championship Series, took his iRacing exploits to the road to the Mazda shootout and has seen so much success. Those years are the golden years. There's so much history that we've had in the 15 years of competition. If I think back through some of the memories, I've been fortunate enough to get introduced to so many different disciplines. I came in as a Formula One and a WRC fan, and I've now commentated on both iRacing World of Outlaws World Championship Series. Love myself a bit of dirt racing. Ultimately, it's just the accessibility and the opportunity that you get to do whatever you want, and whether that's go out here and race around the circuit to 24-hour Du Mans, or in my case, my preferred choice is break whatever wild and wacky car you can around the Nordschleife and see how quickly you can go. You can do whatever you want here at iRacing.
To an extent, yes. And Reese, you know, you and I, we've had some incredible times over the course of our sim racing. We hold a series together, me and you, so we have a lot of fun with that in terms of every week 13 that comes around on the iRacing service. But for you, what's your favourite memory over the last 15 years of iRacing?
Well, I joined iRacing back in 2011, and a lot of my big memories are associated with the Australia-New Zealand scene. Obviously, I've been part of the broadcast crew for the V8 Scops Premier Series, and I'm also doing work for the Pro Invitational Series as well down here in Australia. And you know, it's been amazing seeing drivers come up through our local racing in the Australian touring cars and make their name on the world stage. Drivers like Jared Filsell, Josh Rogers as well, who ended up moving to Europe to compete in iRacing World Championship competition. It's been really awesome to see those stories emerge as we see the leader of our GTP class in, and it also looks like the Desert Dolphins Corvette in as well from the lead of GT1. Well, it's been a nice long history so far, Sperry, and it shows no signs of slowing down here on iRacing.
No, it definitely shows no sign of slowing down, and it only will evolve and get better as it goes through. The taco shop racing with the eagle on the side looks like it is flying at this point to the lead now by 7.5 seconds at this point. But let's not forget what we're racing for here today. We're racing with the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, and this is where I want to take my own personal time out here and talk about my story around multiple sclerosis. So about a month ago, my girlfriend got a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. It was something that I think ticked a lot of boxes in terms of what we were looking at, what we were sort of going through, and sort of that trepidation and the name that multiple sclerosis has is something that obviously with the amount of people that sort of work and go through that sort of process can be very scary. And I think that the work that has been done by so many people around the world, not just here in the United Kingdom where I'm from, where 130,000 people deal with it, but the 1 million people in the United States who find themselves going through that. People who donate and do so through that QR code are going to make a huge help in terms of bringing together an opportunity to find a cure for something that I think has only gone on and got better and better with time through the advancement of technology. Where we are from 10 years ago, from 20 years ago, from 5 years ago is a lot better through the work that you have done and your donations have done. And on top of that, the work that has been done by people from the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. So please, if you can, donate whatever you have available within reason and go out there and support an incredible cause. $26,574.82 currently donated. Your donations can affect how this all goes through. There is the move that goes on forward there, and it looks like Jared Canals has given the entire GTP field a drive-through penalty. Oh my word, what a game changer.
So I think in context as well, we've got 18 GTPs that entered this race. So Chad Knaus not only has put himself potentially onto the lead lap, that is $6,000 that we have gotten for the National MS Society. Thank you, Chad Knaus.
Oh goodness, he is running almost last at the moment. Is Chad and Nick and Ottinger driving at the moment. The car involved there, so they're a lap down on everyone else. Who knows? They'll be getting very close to getting that lap back when this happens.
They will be very close to getting that lap, and I think that's the key. Get themselves onto the leading lap and give themselves an opportunity to go through for it. So this is what happens. You can make a difference. Everybody who is watching can make a difference. And when we say that the field can level and the racing can change, we mean it. The entire field will have that go through. Here is your first taker into the lane for the mandatory penalty stop that is going through. That is Pup and Sud from second position, and then will be followed by THF Racing, who will dive down into the lane and follow through. GTP's story of the day down into the pits, and let's not forget 499 Racing here, Arjuna. This is their third trip down the lane for a penalty.
You win some and you lose some. That's the story of this special event, isn't it? It's fantastic, and ultimately, it's why I was saying a bit earlier, I thought the winner might be determined by the size of the bank account of Pure Sims. Chad Canals might have thrown his wallet down on the table and said, there's a NASCAR Hall of Famer here that might decide the winner as well.
Absolutely, the Hall of Fame is going to go through, but everybody now jumping in, and there you can see the likes of the BMW there diving into number 5, and it looks like we've had a couple drivers look to push in and get everything that they want out of it. But look at it, it's a slew right now, Reese, down in the lane. Wow. Everybody knows they're going to have to take the tax. The question's going to be, is this team right now, the Cadillacs, going to get themselves up onto the leading lap with a wiggle like that past the leader of your GT1 category? It's going to be a little bit sketch, but they are fighting to get there. I'm not sure they're going to get that lap back.
No, it looks like the time loss from a drive-through penalty is not quite enough. There is Nick Ottinger at the moment. Chad Knaus, of course, starting the car in this race as we see the 15th place machine make its way in. That's the Simulation for Life entry with Noah Hendricks at the wheel. And it looks like that's just about everybody in the GTP field into the lane. I'm not too sure if the Power Wheels Esports 013 car, 6 laps down on the lead, has done it, but oh dear, that is a little bit of a botched entry there. Fortunately, manages to get it back onto the racetrack.
Yeah, that's Mason Weir. And not only is that going to be trouble, Arjuna, in terms of how they go through, listen to the horn as well. That's the pit siren that tells every crew member that is how they go through. That's a beautiful little detail, by the way, in terms of this as it goes through. We've had 12 straight, so I'm pretty sure there's someone there with ear defenders on down there. Barney the flagman probably, who's going to be looking for tinnitus at this point in time. But Arjuna, the fact that you can go into the pits like that and the struggles there for the 7, it's a double whammy. Not only do they have a penalty to serve, but that's an unsafe pit entry.
Yes, no, and so they may have extra penalty time thrown onto them as a result. I think, by the way, Taco Shop Racing, along with No Friends Racing, have not taken that penalty just yet. So we will see a couple of... I think iRacing Cadillac should get the lap back once that number 2 heads off down to the pit lane, but I'm not 100% sure. Penalties are not done and dusted just yet, though. Because Pure Sims has decided, you know what, Chad's given out 17-odd penalties or whatever in the last 30 seconds. Let's add one more in the GT1s, and let's take our race leader down to the lane. Desert Dolphins, for the 2nd time today, will have 30 seconds rolling down at pit lane speed limit.
Oh, that's a kick in the teeth for the Desert Dolphins. They're not going to be too happy about that. With the 2 teams that goes through, we'll take a look at Nick Ottinger at this point in time as they go through. Into the pits comes the Taco Shop Racing car, and we'll still wait, of course, for the No Friends Racing number 9 to go through and in. As there is the confirmation, Pure Sim Esports will get a penalty given to the, or give a penalty, sorry, I should say, to the Desert Dolphins Corvette out there at the point. And this is the car, the number 27. They are due to come in then and get another penalty if they just about make it through the corner, which they do. Reese, also to come in is the number 9 No Friends Racing car. I'd like to say I am friends of the No Friends Racing team.
Yes, indeed. We're all friends here in this charity race to benefit the National MS Society. I'm thinking about that Desert Dolphins car and the battle they're having for the lead with Indy Autosport Gold behind. Stephen Brown, driving the number 25, is 9 seconds behind this car, so there will be a change for the GT1 lead there, and certainly hoping that the battle will continue from there. Who knows? Pure Sims might decide to throw a bit more money at it and give the 25 a penalty as well, but I'm not going to look into the crystal ball just yet.
One thing I've noticed, Arjuna, no penalties in this race so far for the GR86 category.
They're being left out.
Can we change that? Yeah, I was just about to say that they've not got in on the fun of this event, clearly, but they, to their credit, have had to deal with both the GTPs and the GT1s with their significant speed advantage. I think it's fair enough to say we'll leave them be with the penalties. They have suffered enough. want to go to the Donkey Bop Racing team, by the way, because I did note in our iRacing Esports Network chat that Milt Miltner Jr. actually jumped on in to say there's some history behind that name. The former factory driver for the likes of Porsche and many others, Milt Miltner, his motto was Donkey Bop. And there's an interesting story about it. They were all chilling in a bar, as you know, race car drivers tend to do, as there comes that 27, by the way, down on pit lane. There was one of the regular customers who was saying, what's that song that you're playing? It's called Donkey Bop. It was not called Donkey Bop, it was Don't Give Up, but since then that motto has stuck. Great to see that lineage carry on over. They're in this class in the GTPs, by the way, and they've been dealing with the speed differential, but the Power Wheels Esports team down the middle, 3 wide with some GR86s. You could see it coming. It doesn't make it any less scary.
Tell you what, they were closing in on him. The walls were closing, and very much that was a case of slide under the front door and make sure that you get yourself through. Whew. That would have been scary there for, I believe, who was driving the car at the time was Kasitic Venketsawar, who was there behind the wheel. So for Kasitic, that was a very, very hectic moment out there. This is 4th and 5th, so this is the Donkey Bop car. Jean-Francois Godin behind the wheel right now will have focus on that No Friends Racing number 9 in terms of dealing with that move. So what can you do, Jean-Francois, to try and make that overtake happen, Reese? He's someone who has been racing for at least 8 years in the iRacing service and has a very, very good background when it comes to the medium speed machines out there. I knew him back when the Star Master, I think it was at the time, was being run.
Yeah, an awful lot of experience behind the wheel of that machine, and he's going to be using all of it here, especially on the run up to Indianapolis. I mean, it's amazing seeing the speed that the cars approach this corner in the GTP class. And of course, that's at the point where the downforce is really working in these cars. It's so easy, though, to lose the rear end and go for a spin. But, you know, Martinez and Godin, they absolutely know how to battle that. And they obviously spent a lot of time setting up these cars to make sure that they aren't caught out by any of those maneuvers. I mean, there's plenty of places around this circuit, Jake, that you need a car that's pointy, especially here in the Porsche curves. You need a car that's neutral. You need something that doesn't step out on you, that doesn't plow. So much effort goes into preparing for a race like this.
It does, and it's not well, it can be something sometimes that drivers do on a whim, Arjuna, but it's often something that you need to spend that time and dedication to go in and say, I'm going to put the time in, the practice hours, the laps. I remember Mac Backer once upon a time over for VRS Coanda Simsport, trying to do practice for the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup at the Nürburgring, and he put something like 18 hours worth of time in for a 6-lap race.
Yeah, and that's rookie numbers at the World Championship level, unfortunately, nowadays. I think, what was it, Brian Lockwood, 2021, started the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup when he said 75 hours for the first weekend alone. It's remarkable how much time these drivers put in. But I think the thing that's always hard to remember is that they are doing effective practice for 70 hours. They've got to find ways to not just be doing laps on laps on laps. They've got to find ways to make the most of that time and not just very much slow themselves down by practicing bad things. I'm wondering what these GR86 drivers are thinking about in terms of all that practice, because I'm not sure how much practice they will have had when it comes to that multi-class component of this race. GR86s have been involved in some multi-class battles, but not necessarily right now.
That is not good for Julio Marquez in the High Prix Sim Race City car. That is a mistake, and it promotes Ryan Mulvey in Ibex Racing. It promotes Jacob Burke in the Throttle Gobbler car up then another position. So they now find through, and that's a GTP flying by. That is insane. 307 kilometers an hour driving through 110 Ks. The difference, Reese, on that straight.
Yeah, and it looks like a little bit extra assistance here for Ryan Mulvey as he tries up the inside on the way to Indianapolis. Well, looks like Jacob Burke knew that the position was done there and just decided to lift off. I certainly don't envy either the GTPs or the GR86s having to race with each other around here. The closing speeds at the ends of these straights. It's like coming up on a car standing at a standstill when you're on the freeway. It's just mind-boggling.
Well, I'm sure as well, because this is a road car, you could put on the hazard lights actually with these to indicate move on around. It's that sort of pace that you've got going through. There is EHF Racing at this point, second position overall, and this is a very important run right now going through the Porsche curves, Arjuna.
Yep, and you can see, fortunately, clears a bit of that traffic initially, but this is the worst possible situation. You can see the speed being bled off there as he tries to pick his way through the two battling GR86s, and that right there is seconds lost. Not one, not half a second, 3, 4, 5 seconds that gets added up with all that time being split off with the speed being brought down.
The difference is, you look at all of what is going on with a car like that, as this is the battle for 5th place going on here in your GTP category right now with the Putt and Suds car number 4, Steve Bauer dealing with Dylan Falovich in the TTSL Motorsports. They had to navigate around, I believe that was Jared Merchant and Blake Rios as they went through. But Reese, the key here is that you've got a car that is system built to try and go as quick as possible through the corners against a car that wants to go as broadside as possible through the corners.
Yeah, and that's something that the GTP drivers are going to have to take into account. And you see so many discussions around it when talking about multi-class racing. The prototype drivers need to be aware that the slower classes that depend more on mechanical grid will take a wider line into corners. They also can't adjust mid-corner as Ottinger brings the iRacing Cadillac into the pits. You know, cars like this one, the Cadillac GTP, they have enough response time, enough downforce that you can actually back off a little bit. You can change your line mid-corner to try and get around a piece of traffic, but you can't do that in the slower classes.
Do you want to watch that again? I want to watch that again. That seems like something that's good. Oh, hello! Oh, you absolutely
Can we watch this one again too?
And get that sorted. But let's take another look. This is what makes this racing so fun. When you have different speeds, different classes, you are always trying to go and battle through. Look, oh my word! How on earth? That's 2 tires in the grass trying to get that through, Arjuna. That is some serious commitment. And the one thing you're told as lap traffic, hold your line. Absolutely hold your line there. Any deviation there would have been a huge pile-up.
Yeah, you're not lifting off in that situation if you're any of those cars, if we're being honest, though, because 2 tires in the grass, you've got another car right up your diffuser behind, putting that pressure on, and so you're going to be going as aggressive as possible. The thing that was maybe more scary to me was the jink of direction in the trailing BMW, because a lot of people think downforce, you can throw these cars around, but if you break that air that slips over the chassis of the car and you disrupt the airflow, given how unstable these cars can be beyond the limit, if you go beyond it, you can suddenly find yourself spinning. And so the way that the 63 was able to bring itself back into the line and to enter the Porsche curve safely, well, it wasn't as easy as it was there, where the GR86 got completely off the racing surface to get out of the way.
This is 9th place at the moment that we focus on here. This is Paul Lewis for the Foo Crew against Lucy Klinger for the Trans team. They will go side by side as they go through. Paul Lewis here in the number 13 will try and make sure that his number is not unlucky for some. And the Foo Crew, I guess here, Reese, are in a constant state of battle with the band the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, indeed. And you told me, you asked me before we went live, you know, have you ever seen a Foo? I said no. Well, yeah, that's because Dave Grohl spent so much time fighting them, we never hear about them. So good on you, Dave. There goes Klinger up the inside at the chicane, and looked like a nice speed boost. I might have to revise my top speed figure I quoted earlier. That was slightly more than 126 miles per hour. Either way, they stay out of the way of the No Friends Racing in GTP as they make their way down the straight. Can Paul Lewis fight back here? He's certainly in the slipstream. We have seen some bump drafting happening between these cars, and a slight jink to drivers left for Lucy Klinger, but she's going to have to yield that one to Lewis here on the way into the next chicane.
But it's almost a trilogy that you've got at this point, Arjuna. So you can make the pass on the first run to the moles on the Mulsanne. You can make that pass on the second part, but ultimately you've got to get there at Mulsanne corner and get that all squared off and sorted. Look at that nose to tail stuff. And I tell you what, Lucy is going to push for a moment, open up the opportunity on the outside, but it will have to be the road hard traveled and hope that there is enough overspeed after being so close off of that second chicane.
Yeah, but to your point, even once you get to the end of the straight, down through the gears and back onto the power, you get plenty more opportunity to get into the draft and slide your way on through. If we're on the final lap of the race, you better believe we may see a battle to the line out of those Porsche curves. We might also somehow still see a battle at the front of this GR86 class, because while Nicholas Pressey eMotorsports have got a 27-second lead for the time being, Pure Sims Esports have, I think that's with the 7th or 8th penalty so far today, decided that leader is going to drop back into line, and with the gap behind being within the drive-through penalty threshold, that number 16 machine, helpfully dubbed just the racing GR86 team, is going to have a bit of a race on for the lead.
Absolutely, and that's going to bring it through, but the 610 racing car has just dived into the pits to serve their final stop of the race. So we are right in that window now for these Toyota GR86s to make their final stops of the race, to get back out and going. That is a turnaround that is not necessarily needed. That's another one of those Toyotas pointing the wrong way, and I think that was the 42 Destino Motorsport car. Jeff Destino himself turned around their race.
Yeah, that's unfortunate there for Jeff. It looks like he lost it all on his own. Once again, it's what I highlighted earlier about the GR86. The rear end gets very loose under brakes, and unfortunately, that caught Jeff out. Well, we keep our eye on this fight here. Klinger continuing to keep the gap up to Paul Lewis. Actually looks quite strong in the second half of the track. And, well, here goes Pure Sims once more. Taco Shop Racing in the GTP class has been given yet another drive-through penalty there, Arjuna. How much money has Pure Sims donated so far?
We are at 8 penalties. I've just confirmed that. And so that means that Don Skirek, watching on from Daytona, where he's getting ready to race his own Spec Miata with multiple sclerosis. He talked to me during the iRacing Spa 24 in the opening hour of the broadcast, what this cause means to him. I think we've got a couple more penalties coming, maybe 3 or 4 more, maybe some more leaders to swap themselves around, as I think that's the Lucy Klinger driven number 12 that finally sees around the outside a move from Paul Lewis in the Fru Crew number 13.
Yeah, so there's the 13 going through then, making that happen. Front stretch now becomes the battleground as once more there is drivers making progress around and through. That then was the Elite Motorsport car making that progress, but here's the pivot to the inside then from Lucy in the Trans Team car, number 12. Getting that done, so lift off from Paul Lewis. Doesn't want to fight through this opening chicane. And why would you, Reese? You've got a huge long 6 kilometer, 3 mile back straight to go and hash out any problems that you've got, and probably in a car that is as slow in racing terms as it is compared to the other 2 bits of machinery that we've got here today, or 4 bits of machinery, I should say. You've probably got enough time to go out there, make a cheese toasty, get yourself ready. I wonder what the craziest thing you could do in the time it takes you to complete the Mulsanne straight is in a Toyota GR86.
Well, I mean, you'd obviously have to fix the wheel in a straight line, and you'd have to put a brick on the throttle or something like that. You could potentially dash to the kitchen and grab yourself a biscuit or something like that. If I have a cup of tea beside me when I'm racing and I'm going down the Mulsanne straight, I obviously take a sip. They got plenty of time to do that, but not when they're involved in a battle like this. That's exactly what you were talking about there, Sperry. Look at the slipstream advantage that's given to Paul Lewis. He is past Lucy Klinger before they even get to the braking zone.
Watch out in the background, though, as they straps side by side as they go through. That's going to be close, they go through. But Arjuna, at this time of battling that we've got, you've got a couple friends. You've got, in 2 different splits, one Mr. Matt Malone and the king of the Hot Boys himself, Keenan Kusin.
Yeah, we've got a Porsche All-Star. We've got an off-road All-Star here. Matt, I've got to ask you, which split are you in right now?
Second split.
Keenan, what about you?
I think I'm in number 3.
All right, so
Nice,
Matt, you're
nice.
more important to us. What car are you driving? How's the race been going?
Toyota GR86, and it's absolutely incredible. I just had a GTP just fly by my doors. We've been pack racing the entire time. It's been a lot of fun, actually. It's been a good race. I may or may not have been reading chat while bump drafting and pushed my buddy Dempsey right through a chicane, but other than that, it's been going great.
Well, I'm glad that at least you're alive. The GR86s, I think, seem a little bit scared in our split. Keenan, what car are you in?
I figured everybody was going to go for the GTP or the GR86, so I went with the Aston Martin.
Oh, but I guess you are Canadian, so it only makes sense you didn't go with the Corvette, though, because that, for an American, seems like the logical choice, right, Matt?
Yeah. I almost signed up in the Corvette for sure.
Okay, so as the GT1 representative, Keenan, how many GR86s have you escorted off the road so far? Would you do it to Matt?
I would do it to about 100%. I got lucky in the sense that I was put out of my misery in lap 1. I've literally just been driving around for the last 2 hours. I've heard I'm 4x to one guy because we went 4 wide, but don't worry about that. But yeah, for the most part, I've been just listening to all the GR86s go like, "Oh, why'd you shove me off? Like you signed up to chicane class. You know why you're here."
Chicane class, I like that. But you are the dirt driver, so you're used to the elbows out. You're also used to doing endurance races solo. This is only 2.4 hours. You've done 24 hours solo before.
Yeah, several times. This is a cakewalk in the grand scheme of things compared to Daytona, which we normally do every January for Extra Life, another good cause. Someone's like, "Hey, you should solo this." I'm like, "Oh, it's 2 hours 40 minutes. That's nothing. Like, we're just getting started. If this was Daytona."
Okay, we're going to send you off to do some of the other splits of competition that we have. Matt, I know you've done some Bathurst 12 hours solo. Can we get you to do 24 potentially?
Nope. My doctor recommended I do not do something like that. He said 12 hours is the max.
It's also a little bit more difficult when you do have screaming kids to take care of as well. So we will give you that, Matt. We are watching some GR86 fighting right now for 8th and 9th position. What's this type of car like to you? We've been talking ad nauseum about how much fun it is, low power, requires so much to drive. Talk us through it from your perspective.
This is like literally one of the best cars in all of iRacing. It's so much fun to drive. You can place it and put it wherever you want. It's so nice and twitchy, but like all cars in iRacing, the smoother you are, the faster you're gonna be. But when you need it, the crazy twitch action is there for you, and it's got such good off-throttle oversteer. And it's slow. So like some of these corners, you can just like lift off. You get your rotation. You're through the corner, and you're on to the next one. Momentum car. You can pack race these things. Good draft. You can go 3-4 wide. It's so much fun.
Keenan, I saw you shaking your head there, nodding your head in approval. You agree with everything he said there, right?
Big GR86 fan. As you said, I've been doing a lot of the dirt road stuff. That's where I've been having a lot of my fun. But I'm like, I used to be a road racer, so I've been doing the GR86 Cup this season, and every race is just banger after banger after banger. Road America has been a farm for good races this week. Whether they don't necessarily finish well, but the races are good.
That's the best combo in all of iRacing. Toyota GR86 at Road America.
Oh,
I've been having a blast this week.
High praise as we get a battle potentially for second spot in our GTP class. The thing that you guys don't have to worry about is potential for Matt, one of your viewers, or Keenan, one of your viewers, to say, you know what, $350 to the National MS Society, drive-through penalty for one of you.
Hey, whoa. Well, hey, listen, I'm going for my 1,000th road win, okay, for this race.
Wow, okay.
That's right. They wouldn't want to sabotage that. They wouldn't be a true fan.
We're going to take a look at the top at some replays, by the way, because while we've been enjoying a chat with Matt and Keenan, there has been plenty of stuff going on in that first sector as they dive their way in towards Tetra Rouge. You can see the GR86 in front of them, and, well, coming a cropper at the worst possible time. 2 GTPs try to go either side, and it ends with three cars crashed. Matt and Keenan, how many fast repairs have you guys used so far?
0.
I've used my one and only because I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but it is definitely limited fast repairs in split number 3.
It is, so it's a good thing that you've only used the one of them so far. That was, by the way, GT1 leaders, P2 in GTP. We've had a couple of different things that have been going on right now out there on the track. I mean, Matt and Keenan, before we let you guys go, where are you running right now, Matt? You say you're still alive, but you were
wait, I gotta clarify something. Whenever you talk about chat, like paying money to like for a drive-through penalty, I just assume the drive-through penalty would be for me. But what would be great is if they did it for the leader and I'd have a chance of winning, because there's this guy in this race, he's like been like 10, 12, 15 seconds ahead of us. He's like really good, and we've been doing everything we can to try to catch him. But now I understand that chat's not against me. They could help me by throwing some money at a great charity and give that guy a slowdown, so we got a chance of getting 1,000 wins, baby.
You might also be a recipient of a moment like we're seeing at the top of our screen right now, where the GTPs were trying to get past the GT1 leaders as well, by the way. So as 3 cars battle for the GTP lead, that GT1 leader's by himself and makes the mistake. The Desert Dolphin car escorts the Pup and Sud machine out wide. Plenty of drama for us. Keenan, you said you had your issue at the start. What have you salvaged so far?
So everyone else just keeps crashing, and because we're in the first split, I think a lot of teams are just like, oh, well, we'll do the next one. Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury here. So I'm kind of just putting around. I'm in 11th. If I can stay out and make this on fuel, I think I might end up with the top 10. And I've been gaining on 11th or 10th. I think, no, they're 10th now. I was 2 minutes behind when I got taken out within the first couple of laps. I'm down to about like 30 or 40 seconds. So I'm hoping we can do something. But worst case scenario, we raised a lot of money for a good cause, and hopefully they're putting on a show for you in the where they entertain. Oh, yeah, well, there you go.
Sounds like
My goodness, sorry to interrupt you, but we've just had a change for the GTP lead, almost 4 wide in the grass down the Mulsanne. Boy, this combo of cars is absolutely insane, and I hope for the both of you that you can survive the next 20 or so minutes to get to the very end. It's always fun to have our All-Stars have a bit of a chat with us, even though, Matt, we don't get to have you doing the commentary today.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I'm always down for hanging out in great events like this.
Well, I think we'll let you guys go, finish off the rest of this 2.4-hour race for more in support of the National MS Society. As ever, guys, thank you for joining us. Matt Malone, Porsche All-Star, Keenan Kusin, one of our off-road All-Stars. Always great, Jake, to have a chat with them.
Always great. You could say 2 All-Stars in terms of the way that they've been going out about it, but what a move for the race lead with 20 minutes on the clock still to go. Carlo Maria Barberi, who has been playing the long game on the fuel cycles, Reese, has now finally made the move to take over at the front of the field. The Donkey Bot car behind, Jean-Francois Godin in second, and then it's a bit of a gap back now, 6 seconds to the Pup and Suds team with Steve Bauer there in the mix. In terms of where we are in the racing, now is probably the time we're going to sense that, as we're going to take a little look at this pass for the lead. This is incredible in terms of how you find a pick in the traffic. This is going to be where the most amazing move happens. You can see Corvette, 2 GR86s, and decide to go to the inside 4 wide through 2 battles to take the race lead. Incredible.
Yeah, I will say, thank goodness there's those aprons on the side of the highway, because if they weren't there, then, yeah, Carlo Maria Barberi would have been in the grass. Just incredible stuff. Very brave, and good on him to keep control of the car as well, because those aprons are massively bumpy. Either way, he is in the lead now, and by a second or 2, so it looks like things are looking up here for the number 5. Things not looking up so much for the Desert Dolphins team leader in GT1 still. They have managed to keep that lead, but they have lost some valuable time to the Indy Autosport Gold car. The iRacing car, meanwhile, Nick Ottinger still at the wheel of this one. He is chasing down James Crenshaw for position. This is for 12th place on the road, and it looks like some very good slipstream going on here for Nick Ottinger as he chases down Crenshaw into Indianapolis. Look at the speed that Ottinger is carrying. Might be a pass towards the end of the lap, but he's going to have to get it done soon.
He is. James Crenshaw, part of the 4X specialists out there, which is the number 3. This is how close it is going to be in terms of what they're doing. Here's a little look then at Nick Ottinger and what he's looking at. He is the pure face of concentration, talking at the moment, going through these brilliant Porsche curves. The traffic stays out of the way there. That would have been the Riven Motorsports car of James Smith, 68. The 68 James Smith. 68 James Smiths in this field, and that makes Paul Smith, our good colleague and friend Arjuna, feel like his name, he's got it pretty good.
Yeah, no, he must feel pretty good about that. Nick Ottinger, by the way, so much experience across iRacing World Championships, and not just in eNASCAR, two-time competitor going back to the VRS GT iRacing World Championship days. I don't even think he's ever won a road course in eNASCAR, such as the level of competition that we have slowly seen build as they turn not just left and right. But the thing we know about him in a car where he's sharing with Steve Myers and Chad Knaus, he is by far going to be the most comfortable, the most quick in that machine, and we're seeing that right now out on track.
We are seeing that out on track and trying to find a move. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just jumped through $30,000 worth of donations over to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. Absolutely brilliant, and donations don't have to stop here tonight after the racing action here happens, Reese, because our donation goal is all the way through towards the end of the month.
Absolutely, as Ottinger finally goes for the move on Crenshaw. Yeah, you've got until the end of the month to donate to the cause. Arjuna, I believe we raised over $50,000 last time this event was on, so that's a number to shoot for. Really fantastic to see the support so far, though.
Yeah, no, I think the only reason why maybe we haven't had a couple more is because the caution periods would be so long at Le Mans. We've removed that incentive to throw the safety car. Let's be real, 2 hours and, 24 minutes of racing. If we had one safety car, we'd probably burn 30 minutes of time. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with one of those paint schemes there because it's flown from across the pond, and it's a rather distinctive Dale Jr. scheme, or rather Dale's scheme, on the side of that number 3.
Oh yes, you know that you got to love iRacing in terms of finding a Dale Pate. You always find a Dale Pate somewhere, and it is the Blue Pants Racing team, which is there and is driving for the everyman, you could say, at this point in time, Reese. The everyman's team right now, currently 41st in the field.
Yeah, for sure. They are currently the last running GR86, but they're continuing on. We do have a word here now with Nate Stewart, who joins us now. Nate, it's looking pretty good here at the moment. How's the race going for you?
I haven't had the best race. I've made a few mistakes and got taken out a couple times, but that's just racing, and this is a fun one for charity, so it is what it is. Right now, I'm just out here hot lapping. Shane Van Gisbergen is absolutely wiping the floor with everyone in our class. That's not a surprise one bit. Really looking forward to see what he can do here in Indy in a couple weeks in NASCAR, and if he can do anything like he did in Chicago and like he's doing right now to the GR86 class in top split. He's
what class are you in at the moment?
GR86.
Nice, and you're obviously finding that car a bit entertaining. We heard Matt Malone talking earlier about the liftoff oversteer of that car. Evidently, even around a track like this, you've got to be dancing with that rear end.
Yeah, you sure do. It's a really interesting car to drive. It reminds me of like a little bit more floaty and a little bit more like downforce Mazda Miata simultaneously. I don't really know how to describe it, but it likes to bounce on occasion if you hit a curb, which, was a lot of fun to do in this car, but you got to hit it just right so you don't end up spinning yourself.
Well, you have competed in the eNASCAR College iRacing Series, Nate. Are we going to be seeing you in that series again?
Yes, you sure will. I'm really excited to compete in the eNASCAR College iRacing Series again. Really thankful to Ray Smith, Nace Star League, and everyone at iRacing who helped put it on. Going to do my best to carry the Hopkinsville Community College Toyota Supra as far as we can. Hopefully make that championship race. We got a lot of different format with 8 races plus 1, with championship race being top 25 point scores. So goal is get as much scholarship money in the first 8 races be in the top 25 in points, and then hopefully, you know, maybe we can figure something out in the championship race and go win a really big stack of cash there.
Indeed, big stack of cash on the line for eNASCAR College iRacing Series. So where are you at the moment in your field, Nate? You're obviously in the GR86, and things have been a little bit tough so far, but you're obviously continuing on to the end over these last 12 minutes.
Yeah, I told myself I was just going to finish no matter what. Right now, I'm about 3 minutes behind Shane and about a minute up to the next car, but you know what? It's fine. It's, like I said, it's fun racing for charity. And, you know, just trying to have all the fun I can.
Yeah, indeed. Lots of fun indeed. Well, thanks very much for joining us, Nate, and really wish you the best of luck over the last 12 minutes of this race. Once again, you scan the QR code there on the screen to donate to the National MS Society. That is what we are racing for here, Jake, to support research into multiple sclerosis. Again, incredible to see the support we've had so far. We have crossed the $30,000 barrier, and there's still more to come.
And this is the crucial time. If you want to have the biggest impact on the race, you absolutely go and donate now. We're celebrating 15 years of sim racing, and right now you have got past, present, and future number 35, left side weight, third in category, finding out what makes it difficult there, going around over at that section of road, heading through Maison Blanche. But when you've got this brilliant trichotomy, I should say here, Arjuna, of the old, the new, and what is going to be racing's future with these hypercars, this GTP, absolutely incredible is the work, the time, and the effort to get all of this together in the iRacing service.
It's what the iRacing special event started as, right? The iRacing World Tour, the opportunity to go around and see all the different things that iRacing has added. This first half of the year, we've seen so many endurance events, 3 24-hour races, Daytona, Nürburgring, and Spa. And now this back half of the year, we're going to see a lot of different things. Knoxville Nationals is up in a couple of weeks' time. That's the next of our iRacing special events. We still have some endurance. We'll go down under to where the other side of the commentary booth is from. The Bathurst 1000 not far away. But ultimately, this newest special event, I think, has been the one that the drivers have flocked to the most. When it was first announced back in 2021 to bring this race for more, we went to the Charlotte Motor Speedway, there was so much intrigue, so much interest with the car combination that we've had. And we've stuck with unique car combinations, things that, Jake, we realistically would only ever do on the sim, because as much fun as this has been, it's been a bit wild, maybe a bit dangerous to do it in the real world.
Look, Reese, you and I know that philosophy so well. Do things in the sim that you wouldn't do otherwise. Lest we forget, Reese, we changed the slowdown gates at this track.
Yeah, that we did. Oh, goodness. I remember the race we did around here on the classic layout in the dirt sprint cars. That was just incredible. And you know, that's the magic of sim racing for us. And that's why we set up Max Bantz, is because we wanted to see just how far we could push sim racing event formats. So second and third here in GR86. Continuing on, looks like that is Ibex Racing giving the position to Throttle Gobbler Jacob Burke, now into P2. Nice to see. But yeah, I think we're getting a couple of ideas for our next event, Jake, from this. Just the incredible ridiculousness of seeing these GTPs making their way through the GR86s. Lots of close calls there, especially for Ottinger in that 889.
But that could be a battle for the race win if someone, Pure Sim Esports, sorry, I'm not going to call out anybody, is going to go down in and make sure that there is one last twist in the tail, maybe in GR86's 34 seconds to the good right now. Has been an incredible drive by Nicholas Pressey. eMotorsports has driven away from the field and done an incredible job. But there's no shame in terms of the way that second and third have raced. Throttle Gobbler team has been there at the front, had themselves right up there at the pointy end from the beginning. Ibex Racing, they've done a really, really solid job of putting everything together, Arjuna. You can't ask for anything more.
They started down in, what was it, 15th spot or something, and they've climbed their way up to the podium. It's been a really great charge from them. And like you say, penalty here, the drive-through is about 30 seconds in delta time down the lane. if Pure Sims, and we're not calling anyone out, decided $350, let's have a bit of a fight for the GR86 lead, it would be really, really intriguing as we see, by the way, that number 5 come down to the lane with 8 minutes left to go in the race.
This is a splash and dash. 499 Racing, who have had 3 penalties over the course of this race, has just been involved in an incident. Stephen Ellis is around at the Porsche curves and bang! Into the back then of what is Team Dat Boy. So there's huge troubles and the race gone for 499. Any shot of victory now relies on the hopes and dreams of donations. It's now Andy Sharp and the Taco Shop racing car that could go through. Thank the 5's lucky stars on that, but the number 2 could still have something to say about it.
Wow, yeah, unfortunately, it looks like that was contact between Stephen Ellis in the 499 car and Daniel Nans in the Destino Motorsports GR86 through the Porsche curves. So, yeah, that ended up almost blocking the track. A few extra bits of contact as one of the GT1s came through. Team Dat Boy, James S. at the wheel of that one. And it looks like all of the cars are now in the pits with damage from what I can see. So that is a huge change indeed in this race for the win.
It is currently 4.5 seconds is the action to the good, as we now got more going on. Let's take a little look at this. This is how it goes through. So this is the 499 trying to make its way through the Porsche curves, and it finds a Toyota GR86 there in the middle of the corner, at the toughest corner on the circuit, Arjuna.
It's just that speed delta right there, contrast that each car has, and the way they develop the speed as well. Aerodynamics versus mechanical grip, and well, the 499 I think would have been slightly frustrated after not 1 but 2 drive-through penalties at the start of the race. Ultimately, if that was going to be waiting for them at the end, it was always going to be a difficult one.
It was. Oh, look at that. Just walking as wounded as possible. Is there a better advocate, Reese, for iRacing's damage model than that sight right there of what is, I believe, an Aston Martin trying to make...
That's
in fact,
a
it might be a
Corvette.
Corvette. That's a Corvette trying to go through. I can't tell because the front clips off of it.
Exactly. Yeah, you almost can't tell without the front fascia on that Stephen Brown in the Indy Autosport Gold car. Man, I mean, they're still in second, though, in that number 25. Unfortunately, he can't turn the car, but he is getting a nice tow from Stephen Ellis, whose straight line speed has been erased thanks to the damage that he's gotten.
The joys of, I believe, that is an incredible sight there going forward. That's going to do wonders for those tyres by the end that it goes to the end of the race, Arjuna.
Drama to the very end, I guess. We'll take a look at this from an onboard perspective and just ride from on top, and you can see that's coming through the corner for the number 2. Big puff of smoke for your race leader, or now race leader, and this is what I had mentioned before, Jake. If you come across slower class cars in that Porsche curves, it's a sequence of blind entries. You're not going to get much time to react. Let's be real, Andy Sharp didn't do much there, but fortunately the little that he did was about as perfect as he could be.
Yeah, and when all of the racing, everyone's going to have a huge notch on their shoulder in this GTP field race when they say they have had the opportunity to beat the likes of Nick Ottinger, Steve Myers, and Chad Knaus. Here's the battle for the podium, 4th place, I should say, in your GR86 field. And that then, they move there as that is an easy one for Ronnie Peterson to lose for the Carousel Race team, as the 610 racing car absolutely breezes on by.
Yeah, Jarrett Wegand making the move there, and already continuing to increase the gap as they make their way into the chicane. They've got a nice bit of rest time, a bit of clear air, but they do have a GTP and a GT1 coming up on them very shortly. It'll be Jared Wishon in the Elite Motorsports number 77 and Chris Brown in the Corvette coming up on them very shortly. All right, let's see a pass here from Nick Ottinger riding on board, coming into the Porsche curves in the iRacing Cadillac. Here on the entrance, look at the speed difference between the GTP and the GR86. I keep talking about it, Jake, because, man, it's a huge element.
It is, and Arjuna, when you look at that as a car, You've got the 4 chicanes as well. That's where it goes through. You've got all that aerodynamic grip. Essentially what you're building and what they've understood is you're basically turning an aeroplane upside down, and that's what a race car is.
Yes, and then once you get to the slower speed corners, you lose all that aerodynamic grip. No matter how much you have built into it, you just don't have the airflow, the speed to get the car stuck to the ground. And so that's when the mechanical grip starts to play its part as well. And you could see just losing the rear end, just not having the ability with maybe worn tires to dig the car and spool out of the corner. And it ended up being a relatively easy pass for Nick Ottinger, who after all of that palaver around the drive-through penalties that Chad Canals very willingly gave, $6,000 very generously donated to the National MS Society, the iRacing Cadillac car still not on the lead lap.
In the top 10, though.
And it is in the top 10. That is very good work from them. But it goes to show, if you run into troubles early, it's very difficult to recover back from them. And it was all set up by our Grand Marshal for this race, of course, Reese, Tony Kanaan.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, obviously, it's not the only thing that happened to the iRacing Cadillac. They did have that crash early on that put them back and had to use their fast repair as a result. But, well, I mean, big shout out to Tony for making life difficult for these guys early on.
Yeah, and that's what we love. It's chaos and anarchy in terms of how they go through. We're down to 1:50 on the clock and racing time remaining. Here is your leader. It's the number 2 Taco Shop racing car being piloted by Andy Sharp. At this moment in time, he has driven a fantastic race so far from Club Texas. 5.3 seconds clear of Team Carlo Maria Barberi in second place. I tell you what, you're in a position like this, Arjuna, you have an opportunity to win on broadcast here on an incredible race like this. I tell you what, my legs would be shaking like crazy knowing that I might have an opportunity to win. And this is the moment which, even through every single race you do, through every official race, up to a big event like this, you still have that same feeling. What if I bottle it?
Oh, we've all bottled it as well. That's the scariest thing. We've all been in that situation, made the smallest of mistakes, and then boom, car's in the wall, and sometimes a teammate looks over your shoulder rather disapprovingly. The other stressful thing, surely, for the Taco Racing team and for Taco Shop Racing and for Andy Sharp, 60 people watching on Twitch right now. That cannot be good for you to be looking over at chat, seeing the encouragement or maybe the trepidation of people telling you, don't bottle it, you've only got one more lap to go.
1 lap remaining, 113.63 kilometer revolution in Pays de la Loire here in France. On the brakes then, up through the first of the chicanes on this circuit, the Dunlop chicane, underneath the classic bridge and down the hill, leaving away the Bugatti circuit and onto the public roads through the left and the right. And the scary corner, which we talked none about in this race, Teche Rouge.
Yes, super fast kink. You got to be careful to get your right side wheels back on the track before the curve ends, and then you get a little moment to rest down the Mulsanne straight. Passing Chris Brown in the number 26 Corvette, coming up on another GR86 here. Absolutely blasts by Greg Jobin, the team side bar entry, and down to the first of our Mulsanne chicanes. It's still not over yet, Arjuna. He's got plenty more corners to come and a little more traffic.
And we've already seen that traffic's been a bit of a factor through some of the faster corners. And so as we head up to those Porsche curves for one final trip through, is Andy Sharp going to have to deal with some traffic? Is he going to have a clean sight of that final sector with which to enjoy the rumble of that Cadillac as it roars through the Mulsanne here? The gap holding steady behind with no traffic down the rest of the Mulsanne.
And still, though, there are opportunities for it to go through. This is the car they're going to have to try and navigate a way around at some point during that stage, and it might be at the worst place possible. That's Nicholas Pressey, who is there, your GR86 leader, who might be able, if he stays ahead, to have a lap of honor. If he doesn't, most likely he won't. He will have to go through. He is going to be over the top of him. You're just watching the back of shot in a moment here. There'll be a car coming around the corner. There it is. That is leader and leader. And at the moment, Reese, that has been 2 incredible drives from 2 incredible teams.
Yeah, for sure. And we got to point out that Andy Sharp has soloed this race. He hasn't had any teammates to help him out for this one. But run up to Indianapolis one more time. Let's see the closing speed. This is something of a 50-mile-an-hour difference between those cars. Incredible stuff. Sharp keeps it nice and stable through Indianapolis up to Arnage. He's only got the Porsche curves to go. Little bit more traffic in the form of another GR86. That is James Smith in the Ryvan eMotorsports car. There we go, right on by.
All three leaders on solo efforts here tonight on what has been a fantastic element of racing that we have put together at the Circuit Day 24 Hours du Mans. Into the Porsche curves for the final time goes Andy Sharp, and it is clear as crystal as he flies through. He knows with the eagle on his side, he has soared his way over towards an incredible feat at Maison Blanche, and now knows that he has got himself just the rear quarter mont and the Ford chicane to go. It's the Ford chicane first. The rear quarter mont will be the finishing run, but the taco shop is open for business, because to the line comes Andy Sharp, and they have found a victory here in an incredible race for more.
Awesome job from Andy Sharp. And coming home to the line also, Nick Ottinger taking the iRacing Cadillac to the finish. They will be a lap down, but they do finish in 10th spot in class. Excellent run from Ottinger, Steve Myers, and Chad Knaus. Here comes Nicholas Pressey, meanwhile, to take the GR86 victory.
An absolutely incredible feat of driving. Did not put a foot wrong all race long. And Arjuna, a car that did put a foot wrong at some point. This is Riley Graham in the Desert Dolphins car. It's been a very scary race for them, but they're going to be in. Let's listen in one last time. Simply an incredible win as Riley Graham takes that for the final category there, Arjuna. Incredible work in the GT1s.
Yeah, was not to be denied, and even though there was some controversy in that fight with the GTP leaders as they tried to work around the Desert Dolphins 27, it's the Corvette that comes out on top against the Aston Martins. But what a race. Three incredible classes of cars all put on to one track at the same time, told to figure it out, and somehow at the end, the majority of the field sees the checkered flag.
And that is the key in any endurance race, Reese. As we take a look at your leader, the goal is first, buy a ticket to the end, and a finish is a grand prize.
That it is. Well, you can enjoy that, can Andy Sharp and the rest of the Taco Shop racing team. Here are your GTP results then. 4.7 seconds was the gap in the end. A BMW getting onto the podium. Nice to see. Pup and Suds as well getting third place after a 5th spot start. That's fantastic to see, honestly, Arjuna. And of course, we do see the iRacing Cadillac getting into the top 10. First car a lap down.
And as we cycle through, we have 4 more cars before we get to the GT1s. Drexel Esports in front of the 4X Specialists, before No Friends Racing and TTSL make up those GTPs that were able to get in front of the GT1s. Desert Dolphins, a full almost 60 seconds clear of the Indy Autosport team that comes across the line in second. You had 2 more GTPs in between them, Simulation for Life and Power Wheels Esports, before Left Side Weight grabbed the final spot on the podium, just in front of that team, Christopher Brown.
And over the page, we look at John's Viking, and then, of course, in 23rd, Nicholas Pressey eMotorsports taking the GR86 crown, a 35-second margin over Ibex Racing. The likes of the 610 Racing team did well. The Foo Crew as well in 28th. You certainly found a great result as well for the Trans team there, number 12, doing an incredible job too. But you look through, you're getting a lot now here, Reese, of your GR86 field, which has gone through, and then after that, the retirees.
Yep, and quite a few of them. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see the lap down lead car make it to the end. Mad Dog Motorsports Orange team was out early with some very heavy damage. AFRT Esports Team 101, the BMW GTP, suffering some big damage as well. I do believe, though, that Blue Pants Racing did make it to the finish, but unfortunately, that's the way of it. You do have some people who will not be able to make it to the checkered flag, but the fact that everyone was able to put in the effort to compete in this event at all, really something to be said about that.
And a race which has brought together at least $30,500 worth of incentive and ability to help those who absolutely need it when it comes to multiple sclerosis. And the fight to find a cure continues on forward. We're still going to be going on for at least to the end of the month. Make sure that you scan the QR code for your link to go out there and donate to what has been an incredible showcase of driving out there at the front, from all the splits all the way up at the top with Shane Van Gisbergen, all the way down to the bottom split action, and everyone who has been there in between and looking to try and get as much help as possible together. We can't have done this amazing event without you, the drivers, the viewers, to watch this incredible sim racing action. So thank you, and please keep donating with all the good of your heart. So we are now going to have the opportunity to talk to a couple of really important figures in terms of the way racing certainly went through. Arjuna Kankapati is stood by with one Mr. Chakanaus and one very important Mr. Steve Myers.
Yeah, two people part of the Cadillac team. Chad, I'll start with you. Interesting start to the race, it seemed like. After spending the year focused on this track and the Garage 56 program, it must have been quite interesting for you to get into a prototype and go racing in the sim world around here.
It really was. It was a lot of fun, and unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to practice as much as what I wanted to, due to actually being in Le Mans and running with the Garage 56 car. But what a fun!
And getting elected into the Hall of Fame. Let's also not just skip past that.
I've had a busy couple of months. There's no doubt, but man, Steve and everybody, Greg West, and everybody that's participated putting this thing together, it's just what a fun event. I had a great time. Unfortunately, I managed to find the guardrail early on, and that put us about a lap behind. But Nick Ottinger and Steve bailed us out, and we got into a solid top 10 finish, which was great.
And Steve, it's the third year in a row that we've been able to do this Race for More. It's great that we've added a special event that's not just about the racing, it's about being able to do something bigger as well. And it's the third year as well that we've had a rather wacky combination of cars and tracks. Talk us through that from your perspective, especially given that you had to pass some of those poor GR86s out there.
I laughed today in our marketing meeting, and I said, ask Greg West if this is every year they try to make it more difficult for me to have to spend more time driving in the sim to practice for it. But he reminded me that this was my idea last year, so that just goes to show you how old I'm getting and how little I remember what we discussed on these events. But honestly, it was a lot of fun. I don't mind the wacky combinations because honestly, I think it shows the diversity that we have on iRacing of what we have to offer people to drive. So I think it's just a fun way to do something a little bit different and raise money for a good cause.
Chad, of course, I was not going to skip over the Hall of Fame nomination this past week, but I kind of wanted to touch on it from a slightly different way. You get the chance to come here and drive and jump into the cockpit, but for plenty of people, it's an opportunity for them to learn a little bit more about engineering and maybe see about what you do in the real world. When you see all the work that people like Nick Ottinger put into the car, how much do you see that it correlates and compares to what you do in the real world?
Oh, there's no doubt. I mentioned it earlier today. Obviously, I had never raced in Le Mans before, so I'll use this as a prime example. So as we were getting prepared to take the Garage 56 car over there, I spent a lot of time running the C8 Corvette on this track to try to get prepared for it. And as you go through and you tune that car and you adjust spring rates and ride heights and dampers and bars, it does correlate. And it really gave us a good guideline of what it was that we needed to take over there. So tremendous amount of realization towards it, and I really do enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. And Nick, I mean, we just, what can you say about Nick Ottinger? He's an amazing race car driver and does a great job. And he's been our crew chief now for 3 years running. Gets a little frustrated with me from time to time because I don't carry my weight, but I try really hard. But he's awesome doing the strategy and everything we need to do. And shoot, he carried us to another solid top 10 finish this week.
He's your road ringer in many ways.
He's amazing. He is the best. He is great. He made the playoffs in the Coca-Cola iRacing series, and he's out there battling for the championship right now. So I'm super proud of him.
We'll see if he can win another championship, that's for sure. Steve, as we wrap things up, though, let's look forward. We had a brief look with Greg Hill at some of the rain. We talked about some of the tracks and whatnot that's coming forward. But 15 years of iRacing in a couple of weeks' time. What a journey it must have been for you.
It is pretty wild to think that, the business has been around for 20 years this year. And, I think when we first started, we probably didn't even dream of doing events like this and raising money for a good cause. And, a number of people that are employed, and making a living getting to do this now. I think, we're lucky to get to do this as for a living, and to now get to do, use the sim in a fun event like this. It does remind you, that, hey, this is a pretty good gig, and we make a pretty fun product. So I'm really proud of the effort that we put in tonight, and great job that Nick and Chad did. And again, congrats to Chad for a really well-deserved honor. And I'm very proud to call him a second Hall of Famer, a friend.
Well, thank you guys for joining us once again. Chad, thank you for the almost $6,000 that you donated in putting drive-through penalties for the entirety of the GTP field. It totaled up to almost $31,000 so far. Can't wait to see you guys back next year for the 4th Race for More 2.4.
Looking forward to it.
Always great to have a chat with both Chad Knaus and Steve Myers. But, I mean, Jake, $31,000. What a 3 hours we've had so far.
Yeah, what an incredible event that we've had. And we've had absolutely everything go through it. We've had the fun, the joy, the chaos. We've had intrigue. We've had deception. We've had everything there. Arjuna, we sit here with a great opportunity to say this is what we do year on year, and this will only grow from strength to strength.
I've seen most of the special events this year, but this might be the one that put the biggest smile on my face. Not just the fact that we're doing something bigger than the racing, but the weird combinations, some of the stories that we got to see, and hopefully next year we do something even crazier, but I'm struggling to think about what we could truly do.
Reese, we know that sim racing is a force for good. It has been for so long. We see so many amazing stories that go through and everything that's done around it. For you as well, how important are events like these to set a precedent for what iRacing can be as a tool for good?
Extremely important. It's tough to add anything that you and Arjuna haven't already covered. It's just amazing to see that sim racing can be such a force for good. Thanks everyone for all of your donations throughout the course of this event, and don't forget, you can still donate towards the end of the month. There's plenty of time left to get your donations in and continue supporting research for multiple sclerosis.
Absolutely, and it's not just the United States, it's worldwide as well. We have had a Race for More 2.4. It has been simply incredible, the amount of outpour and support that we've had, and we'll happily do it all again 1 year from now. Thank you very much for joining us. This has been your iRacing Race for More 2.4 with the National Multiple Sclerosis Society.